Yeah!
Hello.
Okay, I'm sorry. My husband
Spicy.
forgot to say something.
That
One more thing.
Yeah!
Warning, the following podcast is a spoiler-filled review of the movie Justice League. It also contains spoilers for all movies in the DC Expanded Cinematic Universe, including Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and Wonder Woman. In addition, there are minor spoilers for Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, as well as comics, television, animation, and anywhere else that the DC characters may have appeared. Finally, being a VOK podcast, this podcast may contain spoilers for all published works in George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire series.
The Hall of Justice.
Hello and welcome to Vassals of Kingsgrave. In this episode we will be discussing the 2017 release of Justice League. My name is Thomas, I'm FTWard on the Podcast of Ice and Fire forums, and today I am joined by...
Hi, it's me, Adam, also known as drownedsnow on the forums.
I'm David HHH on the forums.
Hi, I'm Sarah, Lady Weaver on the forums.
This is Kevin, also known as Gaiden on the forums.
Hey, this is Shane, easttexasdirewolf on the forums.
Okay, I think Adam, Shane, and myself have been on DCEU podcasts before, so maybe I'll just have David, Sarah, and Kevin, if you guys want to give me just your general thoughts on the universe, kind of maybe even your history with comics, and maybe your expectations going into Justice League.
I've been a DC Comics fan longer than probably most of you have been alive. I've been reading comics since something like 75 and always been a big DC fan. Huge fan of their TV shows on the CW. The movies have been a lot more shaky. I think they've been a little too, action-y, not character-y based enough, I think, for me, and a little too... I like dark, but the dark has just been fighting. Wonder Woman certainly picked it up, and this we'll talk about, but I liked it.
It's hard to follow that up because I'm not a comic book reader. Sorry. And...
No, that's good.
Yeah, it's good that we have a mix.
No, but with it, it's, as long as I can remember, it has been in my life because Mum used to watch a lot of the old Batman movies a lot, so I actually remember
yeah, you're gonna have to
by the old, do you mean Adam
Michael
West?
Keating? Not that old. That's ancient old.
So you mean the fairly modern Batman movies by Tim Burton?
Right.
Yes. And the George Clooney one is actually the one I remember a fragment of the most clearly.
Oh God, no.
Yeah. So I've always known about Batman and stuff because he's super cool. And with these newer ones, I do think that they are very dark, and it does make it kind of hard for a general audience to enjoy them because it is so dark, and then a lot of people go to the movies for escapism. And I think the DCEU might be suffering for that. And my expectations...
Well, I think we've got Christopher Nolan to thank for that, right?
Yeah, but I feel like his ones were better done in being dark.
Yes.
And they were better explained, whereas I feel like these ones are ham-fisted trying to make them dark, and I don't think it's very well done, unfortunately.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think it's sort of Zack Snyder trying to do Christopher Nolan is what it seems like is going on. And I actually like Zack Snyder, or at least his early stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree that I don't think it's really working very well.
Agreed.
Don't think so.
What do you early stuff? What do you mean his early stuff?
Like Dawn of the Dead and 300. I actually like Watchmen too.
Agree.
Yeah, those three are the ones that he made that are good.
Yeah,
a lot of people hated Watchmen, especially some of the comic fans, but I thought it was.
I get that because of how long it was, maybe, or I really loved it. But.
Oh, especially the extended version.
Yeah, I think it's Zack Snyder doing Zack Snyder. I don't think it's Zack Snyder doing Christopher Nolan, but that's just my opinion, I guess.
Yeah, that's always been his style. Well, I'm not a big comic reader, but I usually pick up an event book like The Death of Superman or The Dark Knight Returns. But I mostly know these characters from the cartoons, so I'm not really invested in them as like a comic book fan. I think the DC cinematic universe has been a disaster up till now. I really enjoy this movie, so I'm hoping it's the turning point where they start making good movies. But yeah, I think if they were a little bit more original with how they did things instead of just following the Marvel formula, they'd be a little bit more successful.
See, I think that's kind of just one question. When you say cartoons, I guess I'm curious, like Timverse, like Batman the Animated Series, Justice League, or
Batman the Animated Series, okay. Batman Beyond. Yeah. I know it's Marvel. I know it's Marvel, but it's like Super Friends. I think that's
Super Friends is DC.
No, that was way early. No, that's DC.
Yeah.
That was 70s. Actually.
Yeah, that's what David and I grew up on, I think.
Challenge of the Super Friends.
Just another follow-up, Kevin. I'm curious. I feel like the previous Zack Snyder DC films are a lot less Marvel than this one, and you seemed. I don't know. I find that incongruous. I guess that you said.
Yeah, definitely.
You thought this was better, but you think it.
No, it's more so the structure of the cinematic universe itself that they do.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You mean that they were trying to do a big thing,
right? And they do the stinger scenes, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like they didn't do that before. Like when he made Man of Steel, they weren't even thinking about doing this initially,
right?
Which is also kind of why the whole thing has been half done.
Right, rushed. It's been rushed.
Why don't we all just go around again quick and give our general ratings for this movie and maybe 30-second synopsis of how and why you felt that way. I said let's do it out of we do it out of 5, right? Yeah.
Generally.
Yeah.
Whatever cakes.
It's dealer's choice.
Yeah, so 5. I was going to say I usually try and do a food or a beverage, and they really don't eat or drink very much. There's some alcohol in here. So I said, I don't even know how to
Barry eats a lot of pizza.
Yeah, he eats pizza. But so Shane suggested we do CGI upper lips. So
yeah, Uncanny Superman.
Yeah. If you want to give your rating in how many CGI upper lips out of 5, and then just like I said, like maybe a 30-second why you feel the way you feel, and then we'll try and get into the film into some more detail. Adam, do you want to start?
Okay. This is hard because I did like it.
Yeah.
So I'll give it like a 2.5, like uncanny, like scary Superman faces out of 5. Yeah, like I don't know, there were just some really big problems just with like the major plot points and a few things that didn't make a lot of sense to me, but I did like I guess comparatively I like some of the changes in tone probably that were brought in by Joss Whedon, but yeah, it should have been a little bit longer.
Agreed.
What about you, David?
It's tough. I'll go somewhere around 3.5, maybe 4. Only because I guess it's weird because I went into it with higher expectations originally. Then all the reviews came out, and so I dropped them dramatically. And then I liked it, so 3.75, let's say. You can almost everything I liked about it was definitely Joss Whedon. The lighter tone. I like dark. I like dark a lot. but Zack hasn't done dark well in a way that I find compelling. And so all the lighter touches that Whedon added worked well for me, combined with a story that was getting us to where we're going. You know, it's so clear this is like a like prequel almost, and we'll have to see where it goes after that. But I'm liking it.
I'd probably say 3 creepy mustached removed blips out of 5. And that's mainly because I think this movie suffered from a lack of characterization, whether they got rid of a lot of it to get it down to being 2 hours, or whether there wasn't much to begin with. I don't know, but I think that's one of the main things it suffered from.
All right, so I gave this a 3 out of 5. It's not a good movie, but it's not the train wreck I thought it should be. And I have really conflicting feelings about it because I want to say DC deserves this for not setting up the cinematic universe correctly. But at the same time, it's a good movie, so I oddly recommend it. I'm sympathetic towards it. And I don't think it's fair that Suicide Squad is so successful when it was trash, and this is not as successful, and it's pretty good.
Successful? Like, didn't it lose money in the end?
No, it's not. Suicide Squad didn't lose money.
Oh, really?
It made a lot of money. It's just afterwards everyone's like, that was a shit movie, but it made a lot.
It's because that trailer.
Exactly. It was all marketing, but we'll probably get to marketing at some point here. Shane, what about you?
I go between like a 2.5 and a 3. So I guess I'll give it like 2.75. CGI upper lips. I enjoyed it while I was watching it. I recognized that there were problems, but the more I think about it, the less I like it.
Stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
That's how I feel
You're
about
doing it
Ragnarok.
wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're just going to blow it up with Flashpoint. I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't bother me if they did. If they did a Flashpoint movie and just rebooted the whole thing. I like the characters, a lot of the characters, but just the structure, I guess, is a mess. The villain sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The villain's character motivations are shit.
And they're going to do like a cheesy CGI villain. The actor's good, the guy from Game of Thrones. Like they didn't get much to do.
The voice.
He would have been a good actor had he actually been acting in the role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like anyone could, it's one of those things anyone could have done his bit.
Okay, so I'll give it 3.76 CGI upper lips just so
the highest.
Just so I can be the highest. I didn't actually plan on going that high, but just so I can be the highest, I'll say that. I hate that this is a 1 hour and 59-minute movie. I think I don't want to say most, because I think this film had a lot of issues pre-production and production, and that's not really on us as the viewers to have too much sympathy for Warner Brothers for that. That's somewhat of their own making, somewhat a huge personal tragedy for Zack Snyder. Mm-hmm. But we pay our money, and we shouldn't have to care about that or even think about it. And I feel like I spent way too much time watching this movie thinking about why this scene is happening the way it's happening. So I am a pretty big fan, I guess, of Batman versus Superman. And I really think I dislike most of the Joss Whedon stuff in here. But all things considered, this movie has every right to basically be Fantastic Four, and it's not. It's a better movie than that, but on some level, it loses, in my opinion, all of the kind of difference that DC had been building in their movies between Marvel, and it just kind of is pretty insipid and generic in everything other than the characters and the actors, ultimately. But I'll go to 3.76 just so I can be the highest on it.
So it's better than Fantastic Four.
Yeah. They can put that on they're free to put that on the DVD
that
box.
gets like a 0, man. Like, that gets I wish I had my time back.
right? All
The recent
Did no one like
Fantastic
that?
all three
Four-
versions.
The most recent Fantastic Four, I didn't think the first half was that bad, but it was the second half that I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
man.
Well, again, it's two different.
You can
Yeah,
you can
same.
tell tell what happened to that movie.
Yeah.
Well, let's be honest. They only released that because they had to put out a movie to keep the rights,
Yeah.
the license to keep making Fantastic Four movies, so that they could try to blackmail Marvel into getting the rights back and giving them tons of money.
If you want to see the ultimate like rights keeping movie, is the Fantastic Four movie that was made in the the early 90s.
Oh yeah.
Roger
Oh my
Corman one.
gosh,
The one that was never released.
that's a beautiful movie.
I had that on VHS.
Yeah, you used to be able to get it at cons and stuff. I'm sure you can get it online now.
Yeah,
but you used to be
illegally, but
able
yeah.
to buy it at cons. So the movie opens with what apparently is something that happened in Spider-Man: Homecoming. I've never seen that, but cell phone video of a living in the past Superman being interviewed for a podcast by some little kids. I think they're little kids that are off screen. And they ask him.
It sounded like it.
Yeah. And they end up, their final question to him is, what is your favorite thing on Earth? And Superman seems perplexed, and it fades to black before he can give an answer, if he does give an answer.
Just odd, yeah.
So what do people think of that? Is an odd choice?
Oh,
Odd.
I
wanted an answer.
Go
I want an answer.
I didn't see it as him looking perplexed, but I thought it was more like he was looking off into
had
the
a
distance,
secret.
thinking about what his favorite thing was, rather than saying it.
Yeah, I thought that was supposed to be that he's thinking and he's like Lois, but I can't say it. You know,
Or whether it's like his family, or something simple
I expected
like
him
that.
to say like, "You people find citizen."
Exactly. I was shocked that didn't happen, actually.
Really? Because I think that's in keeping with the character as presented so far, that he is pretty alien from the normal Superman we get.
Yeah.
And I thought it was an interesting choice. I kind of hated it, but unlike Shane, this is one thing, the more I think about it, the more I do like it. But
No,
What?
I didn't mind
Specifically?
this so much, other than I spent most of the scene being like, "What is wrong with his face? What is going on?" I'm like, it's like, I get it's supposed to be the past and it's cell phone video, but why does it look like he's about to like jump out of a video game and murder me?
is there any second that he's on screen where you weren't thinking to yourself, is this retouch? For me, I just couldn't get past that every time I see him.
Well, I didn't know about the mustache thing until after I'd seen the movie.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So that was the scene that really jumped out to me as like, what the hell? And then there were a few later scenes where I thought, this looks a little weird, but the action was so fast and a lot of that CG anyway, so it wasn't, I don't know, it didn't take me out of it like this scene did. And then the next scene with the Zack Snyder depression montage was kind of what really made me go, oh, that's right, they still let him make this.
One of the things that annoys me is they keep trying to make it one universe, but they keep disregarding what happened in the other ones. And I understand why they're doing it, because nobody liked the other ones. But like this whole idea that Superman was this beacon of hope that the world loved, and like when he really, that wasn't in any of the other movies, is kind of, frustrating.
Well,
Sure,
that
they're
was in
retconning as they're going.
that was in Batman versus Superman a little bit. They showed like how much he saved people and he went around. He was kind of a symbol.
He's
not to the degree they make it out, but
I would say he's a highly
But they also
divisive
turned on him.
figure in Batman versus Superman, which again is an interesting choice with the character. But I don't think at any point, other than when people talk about him, but we've never really seen him be just a pure symbol of hope. But I found him, like I said, I think he's been shown to be incredibly divisive.
Which is what I think is interesting, is that they're kind of trying to correct some of maybe the tonal mistakes they've made in the past. Because, I mean, Superman should be a beacon of hope. I like the idea that he's an alien and we don't trust him, and they've done that with like in the comics with like the Legends miniseries in the 80s and stuff. But Superman is an iconic character of hope, and you can go through different variations of that, but that's where he should end up, I think. So they're kind of getting to there quickly, I think, but that's fine.
you know how it's you never speak bad of the dead? It might be that everyone's looking back on him with rose-colored glasses and being like, oh shit, he did a lot and now he's gone.
And
really
more important, and he died for us. I mean, that's the other thing.
Yeah,
you know,
like,
look differently, I think.
This living nuclear weapon was basically about to kill millions of people, and he died in defense of that. And also, they've talked about the rash of people that have kind of come up, and, you know, hostage situations and supervillains, it seems like, have been cropping up now that he's gone. Right. So I think maybe kind of people realize, like, oh.
Yeah, I think there is a tendency to canonize someone after they die. I feel like someone like Princess Diana, who, you know, whatever you think about her good works when she was alive, she was not really a saint of a human being, but after her death, you know, I think people do kind of highlight hero worship, you know, people that died too young or something. But
I think in this case it's a little different because, you know, I get that in the modern world we live in, we doubt and mistrust everything. I mean, if Superman existed today, we'd probably like, is he going to kill us all? Is he going to bring aliens here? Is he going to, you know, that all makes sense because that's
I need kryptonite in my closet.
Right. You know, that's what we would do. There'd be all like videos on YouTube about how he's planning an alien invasion and all that stuff. But, you know, the truth is in the end, he died saving us. And, you know, I mean, you can't deny that. So I would imagine that if this really happened, that's how it would end. Because, I mean, for all the doubts we had, he didn't lead an alien invasion. He didn't do all those things that the conspiracy theorists thought. And he saved us all and died to protect us. So, of course, they would like canonize him now. That would absolutely happen in the real world, I think.
Okay, so the next scene is a rooftop in Gotham where Batman is stalking Agent Tench. He seems like he's just a burglar.
Yeah, he's no one we know, I don't think, right?
I don't believe so. And then they kind of
because that's one thing Gotham's gonna have is burglars. Probably
Batman's just being kind of a dick here, actually.
Oh, was it Tetch or Tench?
I think it's
what was his name?
Tench, isn't it? Or Tat? I think it's Tench. I'm just saying it's the character from Mindhunter's special agent.
The only reason I'm asking is because the Mad Hatter's real name is
Jacob
Jervis Tetch.
Jervis, yeah.
So that's what I'm wondering if that's what they were hinting at. I don't know.
I don't think so. But, this wasn't clear to me on first viewing, but Batman ends up fighting with him, which I hate, and he captures him, and then he dangles him off the side of the building in order to attract a parademon through this guy's fear, which seems to me insane.
Doesn't make any sense.
Was that deliberate? I didn't get that, but maybe.
Yeah, I did not get it on the first viewing, but it was clear to me on the second viewing.
Yeah, because he says like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I need your fear." You know, like, oh,
yeah.
And the parademon just comes out of nowhere.
That can't be the scariest thing happening.
Maybe it's
I don't know. Hanging off the roof's pretty scary.
Maybe it's the intensity of the specific moment, because that would be, you know, pretty scary being dangled off the side of it.
Have you ever stood on the side?
In Gotham?
Have you ever stood on the side, like hanging over a tall building about to fall? Because I have. I jumped off the Macau Tower in Macau, China, and it was the scariest thing I've ever done in my freaking life. So,
and this feels like a little bit of a callback to the opening scene of the like the Keaton Batman, right?
Yeah, the 1989 Batman, very much so. Yeah, it feels like it could be on the same set even, and
right.
Does the Danny Elfman music kick in here, or is that? I think there might be a little
maybe
89 Batman theme in this.
Maybe it was sampled a little in there. It did. I could have sworn I heard it, but then it was weird.
Yeah, for sure he plays it at one point when I think Batman gets in his crawler or whatever it's called.
Yeah,
I like this scene. I thought it showed Batman being, you know, pretty cold-blooded by scaring the guy, and I thought the action was pretty cool. We got to see Batman sort of jumping around like he does in a comic book. I kind of liked it.
Yeah, it was a chance to show us Batman in his own element, which, you know, you're not going to get when you're going against Steppenwolf and these, you know, you have to upgrade Batman for these cosmic threats, whereas that's not what he's ideally meant for. He's meant for like this scene. That's what he's for. So we got a little of it.
I feel like Batman should not let this guy get a single shot off. I feel like this guy gets like 4 or 5 shots off, and that would be like an effort from Batman. There's no way he would let a single burglar get off 4 shots, let alone 1 shot.
Yeah, Batman can't be killed by a bullet.
Well, yeah, but he would not let the bullets fly around Gotham. They're going to hit something.
Well,
it just
they were on a roof. They were on a
well.
Yeah.
We've seen this. This Batman is not.
He's past his prime.
Batman's old.
He doesn't care if people get shot.
He's like
Yeah,
collateral
he might
damage
not care,
happens.
I
I
guess,
kill
but-
sometimes.
You know, this Batman's like the grumpy old man Batman.
Yeah.
Like, he really is.
Which,
But he doesn't seem to be as
kind of like
grumpy old man Batman as Batman vs Superman.
well, he's he's
Yeah, it's because Superman's dead, so he's like, yeah, I killed that guy, it's great.
Yeah, so it seems like in Batman vs Superman, he kind of wasn't super active, and here it's like, yeah, he's been going out every night again. You know, maybe he was a little out of shape or something. I don't know.
Well, he probably has to make up for, now that Superman's dead, the villains are coming out of the woodworks.
And he really needs Robin to give him a hand.
There you go.
Let's not mention
Robin's dead.
So to speak.
Yeah.
Hey, Robin's dead.
yeah. There's always another Robin somewhere.
Affleck's like, I see a 10-year-old over there. Does he have parents?
Oh,
Oh God.
So then we.
Terrible.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying terrible jokes.
right. What's funny, all
think
the things of comics of the like 30s, 40s, 50s now just are like, oh, we can't do that.
Yeah, I mean, all these characters are basically have horrible parental issues. But I think that's the theme of the movie. But I think then it just, after that, we get the guy saying it's because, and then when Batman nets up the parademon, then the parademon self-destructs for some reason and leaves behind 3 mother box engravings on the wall. It doesn't
What
really
the hell?
make any sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, 0 sense.
Yeah, like how I didn't get why the parademon was just like, bug squash.
Yeah.
So I have a question: are these parademons people that have been turned?
I don't
Because it
believe
seems
so.
like in the
That's the
flashback.
idea.
I think these ones came through the boom tube at some point.
Right.
Okay, in the flashback later, we
How
see
long
a
have
person
they
getting
been alive?
turned into one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like 5,000 years.
like
Yeah.
But it's all of everyone they've conquered ever has become a parademon now. If they haven't killed them.
Okay.
I think that's what they're going for.
Yeah.
So
This
Yeah, I think
whole
that's what they're going
enterprise
for,
is
too.
very vague.
Yeah. I mean, you guys have talked about already the bad guy and the kind of room given to the bad guy to get an explanation of what exactly is going on is I think greatly curtailed by the 1 hour and 59 minute runtime. And
right.
I think originally Justice League was supposed to be part 1 and part 2, and maybe
So it's not now?
Yeah.
I don't believe so.
It's not clear.
You might not,
Well,
you're
I think
lucky
it's
if you get anything
it's
else. I
part
think,
1, but it's like, here's a sequel. I think
Right.
that, like the spoilers or whatever on the internet was originally like it would end with like Apocalypse showing
Yeah.
up as the real threat, and then there's a whole new movie.
Which is the entire point, because Steppenwolf was the first guy for Darkseid,
Yeah.
who's the real villain, who's a classic Kirby villain. But I mean, I'm assuming I think what they happened was because the movies have been doing and been getting reviews, that they wanted to hedge their bets and not call it part 1 anymore, because if this fails miserably, which we could argue it's starting to, that they didn't want to have to commit to a second one and paying all these people and spending a few $100 million and then losing money. So,
Well, you know they're going to make another one even if it's lost money. I think the issue more is they don't want
don't know
people to
that.
think that you're only getting half the story, right?
actually, it was the second part was originally going to come out in like a year or two, and now I think they're putting it back because they've also realized we don't even know who half these people are yet. So let's get those.
But don't
movies
they have
out.
a movie lined up called Flashpoint now?
Potentially, it's being
It's on a piece of
floated
paper
around.
somewhere that says,
Right.
but it doesn't
No,
mean anything.
I think it.
So that is like that's their get out of jail free card, right?
It was originally going to be the original sequel was going to be coming up in the next year or two,
Yeah.
but now I think pushing all that back so they can like do the building that they did in the Marvel universe that they didn't do in the DC universe. So, which we can talk about later. But
if they weren't going to do the building, they should have just done a Justice League movie first and then do all of the different character movies rather than doing half and then Justice League and then doing the other half.
Right.
And not fully introducing everyone.
Right.
That's the better idea.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Wonder Woman probably should have come out after this, but then people wouldn't have been as excited.
This movie would have made no money if Wonder Woman came out after this.
Exactly. Wonder Woman saved
I know that, but I mean, just like, you know, timeline wise, like that movie can fit anywhere.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Especially since it's in the past.
Yep.
Well, exactly. Like it really is not relevant to this at all, any more than it was relevant to Batman versus Superman, where she shows up, right? Like she'd already shown up at that point.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that's one of the fundamental questions. Maybe we should just talk about this now, which is, you know, is this movie better off having come out before Flash and Cyborg and Aquaman's movies? Does it hurt because we don't know these people or care about them? What do you all think? I mean, I feel like this should have waited like they did in the Marvel universe, where we build up all the characters, then we actually care about them. But
no, I think 100% they went with they gave us Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman, the ones that you kind of care about. And if they'd made us wait for years and watch a terrible Cyborg movie, probably a terrible Flash movie, and whatever the heck they would do with Aquaman, we probably would have been like, nope, we're not ever getting that Justice League movie.
Whatever the heck they did with Aquaman, that movie's in the can.
Aquaman's pretty much, I think, principal photography's done. I don't know whether that, you know, nowadays with movies that doesn't mean too much, I guess. But
yeah, Aquaman's out next year, so it has to be pretty much done so they can be going on to all the post-production and CG stuff.
And the way that they went with Cyborg as being created like of these mother boxes, like there's kind of no point for an origin movie.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
But they could have introduced Cyborg and Justice League and had Aquaman and the Flash beforehand, and then Cyborg's the character that's being introduced.
Well, originally, wasn't there actually a bit of like you actually got like 10 minutes with all of these characters in Batman versus Superman? Wasn't that the idea?
Well, you got a few minutes. I mean, in Batman versus Superman, we see the creation of Cyborg, and then here we're told that Cyborg was only created after Superman died and the mother box came alive. So that's
right.
This movie contradicts, or seems to contradict, quite a bit of Batman versus Superman. But you know, like they're clearly retconning it as they're going down the highway at 70.
Which is what these movies used to do all the time.
Right.
But Marvel is good at it.
Yeah. Marvel
gets.
I mean,
Marvel does a better job.
I think Marvel gets so much, I think, slack for their movies, but the DC movies get so much bad mouthing, because I think this movie and Age of Ultron are about on par, but I think this one's getting a lot more
Age of Ultron was not my favorite.
Yeah, I think this movie's leaps ahead of Age of Ultron, but I don't. That's slightly ahead of Fantastic Four.
Has everyone seen Thor Ragnarok or no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, after I saw Justice League, I went straight from one to the other.
Inconsistency, or we talked about it on the podcast, but like one of the key points is like she's trying to find the sword so she can use the Bifrost. And I'm like watching the first movie, and I'm like, she has Odin's staff in her hand, and in the first movie he uses that to open the Bifrost. I'm like, okay. Whatever.
Yeah, but the rest of the movie's good. Some of you don't care.
Right.
I don't think the movie's...
Yeah. No, it doesn't matter.
Well, wait,
that's my point. Is it really doesn't matter? But
you like this, and you didn't like Thor Ragnarok.
I think
no, I loved Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, I would say Thor Ragnarok is like a 2.5 or something. It's just average.
What?
I'm not far off. I put them pretty comparable. They're very, very, very different movies, though. We're trying to do very different things.
Yeah, but Thor Ragnarok is Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, he's the best part, but I mean...
Oh my gosh, Jeff Goldblum could be in this. Guys, I fixed DC.
There you go.
Who would Jeff Goldblum be?
Yeah, I was just thinking the exact same thing.
He could be Glorious Godfrey.
Metron.
Oh, I like it. I like it.
You know, in my headcanon, I had a thought, why didn't they have Michael Keaton be Alfred instead of Jeremy Irons? Because that'd be really funny.
Because Jeremy
Because he's busy in Spider-Man.
They should have him be Thomas Wayne, but I'm pretty happy with who they have for Thomas Wayne.
You know, I guess the thing I had mentioned earlier is like, I wish they hadn't cut out so many of the scenes with Flash and Cyborg and Aquaman, because we come into this movie not knowing who these people are, which I guess was the point they kind of went to, which is, you know, Batman doesn't really know, other than a little bit of research, who they are. So we kind of get his point of view of it. But it makes us not really care about these people or their character moments or anything when they have them. Whereas if we'd had a Flash movie, we know about him. Then when danger happens, we care. Where we kind of don't hear, they're just sort of cannon fodder in a lot of ways. And
they made him really awkward, didn't they?
Right, and in Flash's case is also comedy relief, but
everyone kind of, even if you don't really know these movies or the comics, you know who the Flash is. He's a guy who runs fast and he's kind of silly. Like, that's okay. Right. Aquaman, the whole thing about him talking with fishes, whatever. Like, they made him very different in this, so you didn't need a lot of background on that. But Cyborg, every time I see Cyborg, I just think like, oh yeah, they wanted Iron Man, so they cut out Green Lantern. You know, I don't like him being in this. Yeah, they did it when they rebooted the New 52, and I didn't like it then either.
Right. Well, let's be honest. The only reason Cyborg's in the Justice League is because there's like no black heroes in the Justice League, and we need a little bit of racial diversity, given that like the Justice League was like 18 white men and Wonder Woman. I mean, he's a type.
I thought it was more of just like because they wanted that armored hero, but
maybe both. A little of both.
I feel like in a world where it's established and he was a Teen Titan and him becoming part of the Justice League makes sense, but in a world where like he gets his powers and he's part of the Justice League, just doesn't feel right to me, and that's probably because of the baggage I carry from years of comics and whatever.
Agreed.
So we know there are scenes shot for this movie for all three of those characters, which I think would have fleshed out their backstories. I don't think this version of Flash would have made sense to have a previous movie, because they present him as kind of a rookie superhero. Right. I mean, he's just kind of done very little things, I guess, around Central City. But
I do want to know where he got that suit.
Right.
Well, he's a genius.
Yeah,
he made it.
He's super smart. I mean, he's a science hero, I think.
And to be fair, in the comics,
time in the world.
To be fair, in the comics, we never really got that answer either. So it was like one of those, oh yeah, he has it. He has it, and it shrinks into a ring, which was even better.
So
Cisco made it for him.
There we go.
I improved that message.
Right.
Okay, so the next part of the film is basically it's Bruce and Diana flirting back and forth while they recruit or attempt to recruit.
They have zero chemistry, I think.
I disagree. Yeah. Go ahead. I'd be interested what everyone else thinks.
Mm-hmm. Like in the I think it was originally in the Timverse Justice League, right? Is that first where Batman and Wonder Woman kind of had a maybe thing going on?
That's where it's heavily like leaned on.
In the comics, they've kind of tried to date, and it's never worked out.
Later,
I think.
Yeah, I just never like she had her and Pine had a ton of chemistry in Wonder Woman, and I just am not feeling it in this movie between these two.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's the reason why, because it's like her and Chris Pine had so much chemistry, and then Ben Affleck and Wonder Woman, I'm like, not really.
She
like,
hasn't
really,
warmed his bat heart yet.
Right.
I think he's into her. I just don't think she's into him. But
right, exactly.
He's also into Superman hardcore here too.
She hasn't been into anything for like 100 years. So
you know what? Batman needs to go outside and meet some women because he's only meeting Wonder Woman, and that's because she's a superhero. Like, get outside, man.
Point. But that's the whole point. That's what he does. He's about the business. I mean, even when Alfred's like, "Oh, you've got this hot chick you're chasing," and he's like, "No, she has a good power set."
Well, we see him in Batman versus Superman. He's just got like a random supermodel in bed with him. So
I
feel like he does that. Yeah.
I feel like he does that just to like keep the Bruce Wayne Playboy thing going.
Well,
he doesn't.
I think there's other reasons.
He probably doesn't even remember.
Yeah.
He probably
he's got in the comic books, he's got a track record of unhealthy relationships.
Sure.
But that whole thing would make him so detached, where he's like keeping these up to be like, yeah, I'm Bruce Wayne. Look, I got these women. I'm leading a normal life.
Exactly.
And he just burns through these women, and now it's like it's always said that Bruce Wayne is the mask for Batman, and Batman is the real persona. And so this just feels like a tool in his arsenal, sleeping with a new model every month.
Exactly. I'm okay.
Yeah, that's why I do it too. Keep up appearances.
You have a new model every month? Good for you.
If I didn't, I couldn't be me.
Yeah.
By the way, I just also want to say that Ben Affleck, he's like way too big. Sorry, but I know he's meant to be Batman, but I think he's gone from being attractive Batman to being like, "Hi Hulk, how you doing?"
Yeah, I think he put on way too much weight for this, right? I mean, I don't know if it's HGH or what, but it's he doesn't even look comfortable in his own skin, just kind of moving around sometimes.
I think that's
part of that's the suit.
Awkward so much.
No, it's even when he's just dressed as Bruce Wayne, he looks swole.
I mean,
really?
Yeah.
I don't think he looks good at all.
Yeah.
I get because the design is heavily like from the Dark Knight Returns, and that's like jacked fat man.
Yeah, chunky.
Yeah, he's real wide in that, so I think that's kind of what they were drawing from for Batman versus Superman, and they just sort of carried it forward.
Yeah, he didn't get to take his shirt off or anything either. It just seems kind of wasted that he got that big. I didn't really get it, but
there was one
we did see his back.
Wonder Woman helped him.
He did see his back.
Wonder Woman helped him with his shoulder or whatever. He wasn't wearing a shirt, right?
Alan Ross shot, right? Where Batman's back.
Right.
Right. I feel like what we're getting here is very much the Grant Morrison Batman of his Justice League that came out about 10, 15 years ago. Whereas up until then, Batman was just, the Batman of the comics. And then once he became in Justice League, let's face it, in the real world, a guy who throws around batarangs and has no powers is not going to be much of use in an alien invasion. And with guys like Superman and Wonder Woman and Green Lantern and Flash on the team, he's pretty useless. So they had to give him a justification for still being there and
the Bat God.
And being one of the top three. So he was super smart and super conniving and had all these extra gimmicks. And they made him up to be like the most powerful member of the team because he's so smart. He figured out how to take down Superman and Wonder Woman and all that stuff. And that's what we're kind of getting here is this conniving planning, but in this case in a good way, because let's face it, he's the one who gets us going against Darkseid and Steppenwolf and all of them, because he sees this coming and has a plan on how to take them on.
Right.
Yeah, but I don't think you can do that. I don't think you can play it both ways, that he is that. Because in the comic books, like we were talking about when Grant Morrison did it, that was a negative for him. That was because he had psychological issues and he can't trust anybody. Right. Here, they're trying to make it like have their cake and eat it too, I think, and have him do that and be good, and I don't think it works as well.
Well, I think the issue is like the Bat Tactician works great, where like he can lead the team, but like I think like the Timverse, there are other things that did it well, where it's like something would happen and he'd be like, oh, okay, I'm over here, and he would go investigate the weird thing, or he'd stay on the watchtower, or he would find the solution while not necessarily being on the front lines of the battle, like if he didn't have to be. And here it's like, well, let me punch Steppenwolf, and you're like, yeah, I mean,
no,
he never actually punches Doomsday stuff. I think they have a problem figuring out how they're going to handle it personally, because he kind of looks weak a lot, which is funny, I think. But
there's ways to do it, like Jim Starlin's Cosmic Odyssey, which is all about the new gods and the anti-life equation and Darkseid, and Batman's a big part of that, and it works the way they use them. So it can be done. I guess it just you got to figure out how to do it.
Yeah, but I don't think they did a great job. But overall, I guess why don't we just give our thoughts? Maybe when we're talking about all the characters, why don't we give our thoughts of what people think of Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne and Batman, and are you happy that he's unhappy with it, or are you sad that he doesn't want to be Batman anymore? Sad Fleck.
If he doesn't want to do it, which it seems like he doesn't, then he shouldn't. Even though I didn't like BVS, I thought he was good in that. Like you said, Thomas, like something's off here. Like he doesn't seem comfortable uncomfortable or something in this movie, and I really don't like him in this movie. Well, I don't think he does too good in this movie. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was the best part of Batman versus Superman. I mean, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, like we see him. It looks like the comic come to life. It looks like he's been doing this for a while. And here, especially the Bruce Wayne scenes just feel very haggard, I guess. I mean, I still enjoy. I want to see that Batman solo movie. You know, I want to see what he can do. But if he's just burnt out on it, you know, after the first movie, then yeah, I guess just replace him. But I think it was more of there was so much hate around him being Batman that I think he just kind of was like, fuck, no one likes me. Which is like ridiculous because especially when the movie came out, a lot of people were like, oh man, that's the only saving grace of the movie.
Right. I think part of the problem too is that you've got so many purists from the comics, and just like you have in like Game of Thrones, World of Ice and Fire, people who are mad if you do anything slightly different from my personal vision of these characters. And I mean, let's face it, people hated Affleck in this role before he even took it. You know, I mean, he took it, and even then, immediately they were like, I hate him. It's like, why don't you wait and see if he's any good? I mean, he is an actor. That's his job. And, you know, I think a lot of it, too, was he took this role because they promised him directing the next movies and whatever, and that hasn't happened yet. So he's gotten all this hate from everyone.
Well, he's the one that backed out, though, of the Batman movie, right?
I'm not sure, but I feel like it's just at this point, he's gotten more negative than positive, so you can't blame him. I think he's done the job fine. I think he did it as it's written, you know?
Like, a lot of the hate came from him being Daredevil, though. Nobody wanted him to be a superhero.
But even then, was that his fault, or was that the script?
Yeah, and like, he wasn't the worst in that Daredevil movie. That Daredevil movie just wasn't very good.
Right. There's the problem. He's a good actor. If you give him a shitty script, he's going to be shitty no matter how good he is, you know, or at least pretty okay in the shitty script, you know?
Yeah, you have to be very, very talented to make a shitty script okay. So. Right.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing over there. I mean, I guess it's him that backed out of the directing, but I mean, I thought that was what got me excited when they first announced him as Batman. I'm like, oh, so eventually, since he's in the universe, he'll be able to direct a Batman movie. And that's what, you know, got me through BVS on that first one, and that didn't happen.
Yeah. Do you think it's because with it, he could direct potentially a very, very good movie, but as well, do you think he has to do all of the training to keep that body shape, which is unrealistic, and be able to do all of his scenes and then direct and do everything else?
Well, his age.
Well, no, but I mean, it's unrealistic for someone who works a 40-hour job, but when you're not shooting and your 40-hour job is the working out and the eating, and like, I don't know how unrealistic it is to get paid millions of dollars to stay in shape.
But as an actor, is that what you want to be doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, and if he wants other roles, though,
and he wants
because he'd have to lose it
He's
all.
Like, I just want to play a fat guy
on.
from Boston for once.
Yeah.
No, he's
all the
45.
news after.
So
all the news after BVS was it was all about the script is what they were having problems with.
Right.
Yeah, I suspect that he's got issues in his life outside of acting that may make things difficult for him.
I'm just waiting for the day when they announce that he's quit and like, or that they've cast someone else as Batman, so I can like make a GIF of Batman leaving Gotham, and then Affleck saying that he's putting this whole town in his rear view.
I think he's pretty excellent here myself. I think they interestingly play him as kind of, he almost has a death wish, I feel like, in this movie. He's I feel like like the actor is looking for a way out and the character is looking for an honorable death as well. I thought that was an interesting performance, and I think he's an excellent Bruce Wayne and an excellent Batman, and I hope he gets his life together, and I'd love for him to stay in the role, but I don't think that's going to happen at this point.
And also, you got to remember, I mean, Batman is completely out of his league here. I mean, so to speak, bad pun, but I mean, he's the least powerful of these five people. He's up against an alien invasion, and he's got all the responsibility to make it happen because he has to bring back Superman. He has to get these people together. He has to do everything. I mean, let's face it. Without him, this movie would not have happened, and the entire story wouldn't have happened, and Steppenwolf would have taken over the world, and we would have had a problem. So, you know,
See,
I mean,
but this is why he is out of his league in this movie, and that's a problem.
Don't make
because
this movie
Batman is never out of his league.
Right.
That's
There's
why
no reason this movie has to be.
Batman is the league.
There's no,
But at
That's
the
why
same
Keaton's
time-
my favorite Batman.
but if
Because
you had,
Keaton admires Batman in the first movie when Vicky Vale says, "Why you?" and he says, "Because no one else can," and you believe it. That's why Keaton's the best Batman.
well,
'Cause-
I mean,
yeah.
I think that's a fundamental problem with the concept of the Justice League is you've got these like elongated man and Batman and Atom and Aquaman to some level who are in a group that they really don't belong in, but they put them together because, let's be honest, we want to have all our heroes in one group because that's cool. But then how do you create a good villain that works for everyone?
Well,
because, I mean, if you put them against Darkseid or
well, you don't
Steppenwolf
put him
or,
against Darkseid, though. That's the thing.
But
You
then
don't
it-
do an alien
then if-
invasion movie. You do.
Okay, but then, so say you put him against Joker and Superman takes him out in 3 seconds and the movie's over. You know, this is the problem you've got.
Well,
You
got
put
a
the end of
Joker's
the
got
movie.
kryptonite, right? Like I don't know.
You
We
put
have
the
a
You give him the
with the Royal
tools to
Flush
take down
gang.
Superman.
Yeah, you give him the
Group
Legion
is
of Doom. You give him Dark. You know, you don't give him Dark.
Well, yeah, that's why you have the Legion of Doom. You match them up
Right.
or whatever. But I think
But they're building
this has
it.
been the fundamental problem with DC and why they've had issues, like, and why a lot of people, you know, the DC Marvel thing is like, because it's like the gods and mortals thing. It's like, well, you've got 3 or 4 people that can sort of handle it all, right? Even outside of the Justice League or anything, it's like sometimes it's like, what is if there's like a world-ending threat in the DC universe and like Green Arrow is handling it? You're like, why?
Right.
Why is he the one
Exactly.
dealing with this? You know.
But at the same time, if you're going to put them in the same group, there's almost really no way to resolve that if you think about it. Because, I mean, even in the Marvel universe, you know, any of these minor characters, Hawkeye should not be able to go against Ultron. I mean, you know, they've dealt with it well in the movies. I'll say that. It's worked well, but it kind of doesn't make sense, you know? And that's just one of those things we have to deal with when we want to put these people in the team together. And that's how it is in the comics. And that's the whole idea. But, you know, in the real world, it's kind of not going to make any sense.
Again, I would argue just don't do cosmic alien invasions then.
Yeah, and in the
there's no
real
reason
world,
to
it's
do
so
it.
hard for Superman to like do anything. He's just so busy.
You know? But I mean, let's say you put them up against Joker or any like normal kind of threat that Batman would take on. Superman and Wonder Woman, either of them in 10 seconds would take care of that before Batman even got there.
That's why you have Lex Luthor.
Isn't
But,
isn't
yeah,
the
Lex
most
Luthor has no
common
powers.
kind of origin for the Justice League whenever they reboot or whenever they do it on TV or anything, like they have like those the animated movies or like the show? Isn't it usually it's Starro or
Right.
it's Apocalypse or it is some
Cosmic.
sort of it's
Cosmic.
some sort of alien invasion, but usually something manageable.
That's
I
easier
don't
to
know.
do in a
But it's
comic book.
it's
or
kind of
cartoon.
generic,
Yeah.
right?
Okay, I don't think we're gonna agree, but yeah, I think the movie is flawed in its choice of villain, and again, I think they started with an idea they were going to build the dark side, and that was a bad idea, I think. But let's
Well,
move
even
on.
if
Go
I
ahead.
think Steppenwolf could have been cool, I just think the CGI is so done. Just a generic bad design CGI guy. I was going to bring this up when we talk about Darkseid. I was thinking about this the other day. CGI, because eventually they want to bring Darkseid in. CGI or practical, and I went back to the movie Legend in 1986. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
David Bowie.
Lord of Darkness. David Bowie was what?
Or am I thinking of a different movie?
Is it Tim Curry?
You're thinking of Labyrinth?
Yeah,
Oh,
Tim
Labyrinth,
Curry is
I'm
Lord of
sorry.
Darkness.
No.
Yeah, you're Labyrinth. Tim Curry is Lord of Darkness in Legend. That is an amazing practical makeup effect. You can do practical makeup effects. I think they need to go back and try maybe, little CGI, around the edges to tweak some things, but I definitely think they need to go away from these big CGI bad guys.
Agreed. 100%.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know.
Thanos isn't CGI. He's like a mix
I
of
don't
the
know.
two.
These guys.
Next.
Yeah.
Is Thanos the mocap suit?
Isn't Thanos like 8 feet tall?
No,
or
I
something?
think they just the face. They do like the face, but the rest is all CGI. But he hasn't done anything either.
I mean, the technology. I mean, you got the Andy Serkis doing Gollum and
Right.
Planet of the Apes.
Andy Serkis.
Maybe they just
do
need
it
better
all.
CGI. I don't know.
I think
Just have Andy Serkis is amazing at it, though.
Well,
Right.
I think part of the
company?
issue here is all we have is Steppenwolf and these parademons.
Right.
You get these two dimensions of this invasion force,
Right.
and it never really makes sense. Like the mythology they present you is these three mother boxes, which I guess they need to terraform worlds or whatever. Whatever it is, it's a little confusing. But
Right.
we see in the past that he's driven off of Earth, and it looks like they talk about him being in exile, but it just looks like he just went back to his ship and flew away. But if he's in exile, like, what has he been doing this whole time?
Right.
Like, for thousands of years, like, the whole crux of the movie is, well, now Superman's dead, they can show up. That doesn't
Right.
make sense if you knew about this planet and your most powerful weapons have been trapped there. It makes sense if you
Right.
just discovered this planet and, like, Superman was there when you discovered it, and now he's gone. Right? Like, why not show up 100 years ago and take these boxes back? Like, I don't really get it.
I mean, let's be honest. Steppenwolf was always the Phase 1 like mini boss. It kind of doesn't make sense because he's, Steppenwolf is basically our mini boss, building up to Darkseid. He kind of doesn't really have any real motivation other than I want to like do my thing and I want to take this over for my big boss, And so if you're not building to that, and it's still not clear if we are or not going to get Darkseid at some point, then it's unsatisfying because we've got the build up to this story that won't ever happen. I mean, we don't know anything about this guy. We know he tried to take over Earth, way back when, and failed thanks to the combined Amazons and Atlantis.
The humans, dwarves, and elves.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Exactly.
And, so we don't have any motivation for him. I mean, you've got
And the Green Lantern.
a great actor wasted. Yeah,
That was great. Yeah, I loved seeing Green Lantern. I was like, oh, we can have him. We can have him. Please.
Finally. And, so it puts us in a bad situation because we've got kind of half a story that we may not get the end to. I hope we're still going there, but, as a huge DC Darkseid fan, I want to see it. But, even then, it's Kirby, and Kirby was always about, like, great visuals and great spectacle and not a lot of deep character motivation. Darkseid, what does Darkseid want? We don't know. He's just a big old guy. And now we've got a minion of Darkseid as our villain. What's his goal? Well, there was originally going to be some story where he was like actually going to try to take it over from Darkseid, which was completely left out now in the new Whedon version. So we have no motivation for this guy at all, and he's our big villain. He's just a bad guy taking.
It makes more sense to me if they pull this army in. You've got parademons and hover tanks, and you've got more of kind of like the heralds of apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of making this giant CG character, save some money, make him do like the effect like they did in Lord of the Rings, like where they make Gandalf big or the Hobbit small. Make a big guy, like make it a guy, make him a little bit bigger than normal. Like when they show the gods in that battle, right? They're all a little taller. Do something like that, and have other minions of Apocalypse with him. That way, you can get exposition done. You can get character out. He has nothing to do but like, oh, Mother Box, I'm so into the Mother Box.
Yeah.
And you're just like, okay, dude, like he's got nothing to act off of.
Right.
Yeah, they need to give him Scourge so he could sit there and tell him his plan like they did in Ragnarok.
Calabec.
At least that way you
Yeah.
get to know some stuff. Like
If he's Darkseid's minion, so Darkseid has just been chilling for 5,000 years too.
Pretty much.
Oh, it's a big universe.
Why wouldn't
he's at
Darkseid
least
send
taking
one of
them
his? Why wouldn't Darkseid send one of his other lieutenants in the meantime? It doesn't make sense.
Well, again, the issue is that they've made these Mother Boxes out. There's 3 of them, and they're like the baddest thing ever. And like this is their ultimate weapon. So why on earth would it be left there? Like why? Like it seems like they can't. They can't.
Of them.
They have ones for each
that's not-
planet. They have one on each planet.
But they haven't made it seem that way. Like this guy's been separated from the Mother Box for thousands of years. He would just go get more of them, right? If that was a thing, they've made it seem like there are 3 of them, and this is the 3 MacGuffins, right? In this movie, that's kind of what they've created, and it doesn't make any sense that you wouldn't want that back as soon as possible. Like Darkseid returns with the whole army this time, right away or something. Like it's I don't know if they wanted to create a way that to have that scene where he goes and steals the boxes from the Atlanteans, like to bring them all together. This was what they came up with, but it doesn't. The change in the mythology there just doesn't add up.
I mean, it would even work if you said that somehow he was cut off from Apocalypse and he only had like. But then again, where did all these parademons come from? Well, maybe he had them like waiting all these years in like limbo or something. Yeah. That would work at least, because it would make sense that he can't do it. You know, maybe they sent him off and Darkseid hasn't heard back, so he went and did other stuff, and now he's finishing the job that he was. Maybe time's different.
Yeah,
I think
the simplest
I have a theory.
Go ahead.
Sorry. With Cyborg, isn't the mother box meant to be one of the things that helps make him? So whether that summons Darkseid? I forget names.
He activates it or activates or something, right?
Yeah,
well,
and
the
then
death of Superman is supposed to activate his the human box, is what they explain it as. And then the other boxes seem to activate sometime later.
The simplest thing to do would have just to have had each box has a Herald of Darkseid trapped in it for all these thousands of years. Right. That's why no one ever showed up. That's why everything was silent, right?
Mm-hmm.
My understanding is
that would be Steppenwolf.
Darkseid's mother is trapped in the mother box. But this is not in the movie at all, so there's no reason to go.
Isn't it Steppenwolf's mother, I think?
Diaga. No, I think it's...
No, it's like the all forced or whatever it is, right? The life equation or whatever.
Yeah, anti-life equation.
The source. It's like the source is what's trapped in there, right? The source of the universe. And then when he makes the father boxes, that's like the anti-life is trapped in them.
I'm not familiar with father boxes, but
I've never heard of father boxes.
Yeah, I haven't.
Father boxes. I haven't read all the original covers.
Yeah, Apocalypse makes a father box, whereas the mother
boxes were New Genesis technology.
Yeah, they're neutral. Yeah, they're neutral. Yeah.
Okay, this is way too.
Yeah. Way too comic geeky.
Yeah.
We can cut all of this out.
Okay, so let's. We started with Ben Affleck. Why don't we just run down the characters maybe and give our thoughts? If anyone wants to go next, let's go with Gal Gadot, Diana Prince, Wonder Woman.
I don't appreciate all of the upskirt shots and the bum shots, but otherwise it's cool.
It's really not necessary, right? I mean, I'm not gonna complain, but it bugged even me, and. We don't really need to see her ass in leather pants.
I only noticed the one shot, but I wasn't paying as much attention to that.
Right.
There's probably like three.
I saw it with Mum, and like in the first sequence, I'm like, how many times are we going to see up her skirt? Like with just the first sequence, and then through the thing as well. And with it, it's a lot of the times you're angled up, so you're looking up at her, but they could have done it on a slightly smaller angle, so you still get the same effect, but you aren't looking up her skirt. So but they didn't choose to do that because obviously, hey, let's show up her skirt.
Yeah, I mean, we get a gratuitous, I think, Henry Cavill shirtless scene for no real reason too, but I don't really see why they did that with Wonder Woman. I don't think that really is helpful to their movie, but
it didn't add anything at all, and I'm like, there was no reason for it. And with the Superman scene, I said that to Mum as well. I'm like, why isn't he wearing a shirt? Is he pulling a Hulk on us now? Like, where's his suit jacket?
I was fine with that. I was fine with that fight scene with him shirtless.
Dude, I mean, but it just...
Well, if I looked like that, I wouldn't want to wear a shirt, but...
If
I would walk around in a
Speedo
like all day long, Like, look at this.
I was fine with that.
My 20s, maybe,
If they decided to have him shirtless, or be like, his shirt popped off when he was resurrected, or something like that, then shouldn't he be completely naked, or he should be completely clothed? Pick one or the other.
There are censors involved.
Right. All right. Are you looking for logic for whether we choose to put someone like naked or half naked on TV on a movie screen? Come on.
Yeah, I would have been fine with the giant Dr. Manhattan.
They could just put him in a shower to start, and then it would be artistic.
Right. I don't need an excuse to see Henry Cavill shirtless. I'm fine with it.
I thought I noticed a little bit sort of the upskirt, but I thought her character really didn't have a lot to do with this movie. I mean, all she really does is she fights Steppenwolf and Kate, and like she gets a few good shots in, but most of the time she's getting her butt kicked, her and Aquaman. So, I mean, I was hoping for a little bit more.
I thought she played as a good like counter / support for Batman, which was her role, which I thought worked well. I mean, she says, "Wait, let's do things a little different," and but she does her thing too. And I mean, she's as much a part of this bringing everyone together as Batman is. So I was fine with it.
Which is also nice to have someone else helping him, so he can rely on someone else, like Batman. So that's good, but.
And in some ways, she's more effective than he is, too. So.
I'd say many more ways. I think what I like about Team Comics is kind of like the dysfunctional family aspect of it, and these broken people coming together. And I think Ben Affleck is kind of the father figure here, and she's very much the mother figure to certainly Cyborg and Flash, and I guess Aquaman's like the drunk uncle or something. I don't know what his exact role in the family is, but
favorite character.
But I go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I totally agree. Like Aquaman's the drunk uncle surfer guy who's off over there, and then Flash and Cyborg are definitely the college age kids.
Yeah. Which is weird because in the comics, that's why we'll talk about Flash later. I'll get more into it, but.
Okay, let's do Ezra Miller's Flash next.
Hashtag not my Flash?
Right.
Yeah. Well, it's not Barry Allen. And
it's Wally. It's Wally.
Yeah. Well, a lot closer to Wally.
This is totally Wally West as Flash. He's young. He's new. He's excited and cocky and wisecracking. And he's everything Wally West should be. He's nothing like Barry. He's nothing like Barry.
I think he was cocky.
Yeah, he's not cocky.
Well, yeah, maybe.
I thought he was more like
He's
super awkward in his own skin.
Yeah.
And let alone around people.
He is more Wally-like, and I mean, I prefer Wally as the Flash. Like, that's kind of comics and stuff. That's what I sort of came up with. But I think the main thing here is Marvel has been super protective of their movie characters getting onto TV, right? Like, they don't let them onto TV. And DC has actually developed like a really great little, TV verse over on the CW.
Right.
But did this hurt them? I kind of feel like it did. But maybe only for those of us that actually pay attention to that.
Right. Well, I mean, they definitely have said these are separate universes completely. They happen in like parallel worlds, and they're not the same. And in fact, for a while, they made them like take out characters that were in both. They had to they had to get rid of the Suicide Squad in Arrow and all that. But it is interesting that we're still using some of the same aspects of Barry's Flash, because I don't know if you all know, but this whole his father was framed for his mother's death thing, that's only about 5 years old in the comics. That happened in Flash Rebirth, and that never existed before, and was something they added for that and for the TV show. And it's been really good. I think it's been really well done in the TV show, and it gives Barry a lot more character motivation that he never had before, and I love it. And that was the one thing I liked seeing here, but everything else about this Flash is not Barry to me at all. I still liked it, though. He was probably my favorite character in the whole movie, but it's not really Flash, or at least Barry Flash.
Yeah, the only reason he's got to be Barry is because they want to do Flashpoint, right? There's no other reason to make this guy Barry, because he's much more Wally. He's social anxiety, which Wally doesn't have. But other than that, he's a lot closer to Wally.
Right.
All right, so I have a question.
Yeah.
If they used the Flash from the TV show in the movie, would that have been better, since that already has an established universe that has, lots of fans? If they brought in Arrow from the TV show,
I don't think
try to make it all one universe.
The problem is if you brought in Barry, right, you would have to bring in pretty much the whole Arrowverse, because it's an alien invasion. So then you'd have to add Black Canary, you'd have to add all these other characters that they didn't want to do in here, and I think that's why they wanted to go with a new, so we're not stuck with each other's continuity.
Yeah, I'm glad they're not screwing up the CW shows.
Right.
Let's
I
just
love
leave
them.
those be, and
I love them.
let's let Warner Brothers screw up their movies if they want to. But yeah, I don't think they could have done that.
Although Marvel's pulled it off well, keeping them in the same universe.
Sometimes. Oh, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Oh, go ahead.
Netflix stuff's good.
Right.
Yeah, I'm
On
way
the
behind
Flash?
on the Netflix. Yeah, anyone else have anything on the Flash?
Yes, did you guys notice in his Flash cave, he had all the TV screens going and he was actually watching the music video going on in the background? That was Blackpink, so it's a K-pop band, and it was As If It's Your Last. So I was like, what, bro? Huh?
You would catch that. I love you, Sarah.
Yes, I did. Anyone who's into K-pop is going to catch it, and I'm wondering whether they're doing stuff like that more now, because K-pop really is getting more and more popular. Like BTS was on their AMAs, which just happened, and performed on it, so yay. And they won like Billboard Music Award, and they did an EXO reference in the most recent Triple X movie, but that's because they had one of the members of like that used to be a part of EXO in the movie. But yeah,
Probably just trying to appeal to a new audience.
Yeah, I think he's trying to make Barry of that age, I think, probably. But I'm too old for K-pop, unfortunately. But
no, you're not. My mum's into it.
Nah.
I like Korean game
for
shows,
you completely.
But,
Like,
so for me, Barry was way too wisecracky, and it started okay, and maybe the first time I watched the movie, I didn't hate it, but I was so tired of it by the second time I watched the movie. Just constant. And some
The
of it
brunch thing.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think, like, the brunch joke is supposed to be unfunny, and that's why it's funny, kind of thing, but, and I thought that was kind of socially awkward, but it's just too much for me, I guess.
I mean, I think
why does he run that way?
Yeah, you were on Super Weird again. I don't know. I love when they make super weird choices like that, I guess, but it is awkward looking.
It didn't bother me. It's just I wonder if it was like significant.
I think he's just trying to. I don't know if he's over gesturing to make it look like he's going faster, slow. Like it was weird, but.
do you think it's so they have an avenue for someone to take them aside and be like, look, Barry, if you want to get better speed in the future, this is how you run. And so they have the possibility of upping his speed later, because then he'll run hopefully like a sprinter and more efficiently, because at the moment it's very awkward. And it almost reminds me like he's running for the joy of it. So it is a bit weird and funky rather than running efficiently because he has to get somewhere.
That's fair. It's not bad.
I do love the effect that they use for the Speed Force.
I was about to say, I really love like the lightning effect, and just, they've got the money to do it. The way they did it, I think, was really great.
Yeah. I mean, I'm weird with the whole Barry thing because on one hand, this is, hashtag not my Flash. On the other hand, I liked everything they did with him, and I liked, that let's face it, this is probably most of where we're seeing the Whedon influence with the wisecracking and and I liked it. I thought that added, I think dark works well in contrast, and without it, it doesn't work as well, I think, usually. Not always, but in the case of superheroes, it does a lot. And he was, a lot of my favorite scenes were with him. And even though, again, I've been reading Flash since 75, and this is nothing to do with any Flash I've seen except maybe Wally, but I liked it anyways because I'm not a purist. So
yeah, I think my favorite scene of the movie is actually the scene where Flash and Cyborg are like digging up
grave robbing.
Yeah, grave robbing. That was my favorite scene of the movie.
That was
just
kind of the best joke.
Yeah. Because it was funny and awkward and not like joke a minute. I don't know.
And as well, I think it added some levity, but it was still quite dark and it fitted.
Yeah.
And I think if they had have matched the rest of the movie to that sort of tone, I think it would have been very enjoyable. So it can still be dark and you still have some humor, but it meshes well together.
Yeah, I thought they were really good in that scene. I thought he was excellent in his scenes with Billy Crudup too. I thought those scenes had a lot of heart, and they weren't all jokey. So I think Ezra Miller's a really good actor. I just feel like they gave him way too many jokes per minute, and when he was kind of toned down just a little bit, I thought he was great. But other than that, he kind of got on my nerves.
What did you guys think about the scene where they're rescuing the people from Steppenwolf, the hostages? Did you like the scene with the Flash getting advice from Batman, being taken aside and spoken to, and being like, I can't do this, and having a bit of a panic attack about it?
That was one of my favorite scenes when Batman says, just say one person. He's like, nope, just say one person. And Batman just tells him that. I thought that worked really well. Yeah, that's what I've got, like 3 or 4 scenes that I really liked. That was one of them.
I really enjoyed that scene because it did show Batman being a mentor, and he has been doing it for 20 years in this universe, so it makes sense that he can give advice about it. And I did like the fact that the Flash was so awkward and being like, oh my god, what? Because a normal person would be freaking out about it, and especially if it's your first time. Like, absolutely. So I really liked that scene, and I thought it fitted quite well.
Yeah, I just like
they
the
did
line,
show that
just save one person.
He has fought Captain Boomerang, or at least he pushed him down. So he's encountered...
Oh, yeah.
But I think as well that wasn't a hostage situation with a supervillain who's going to kill everyone. It was more like he's a thief.
Yeah.
It's not high risk. It's very low risk, really.
Yeah, that wasn't doing battle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I did like that scene the first time I saw it in the trailer, like a couple months ago, and not, every couple of days since then, over and over again.
Yeah, definitely one of the best scenes in the movie, I think. We get his awkwardness, and everyone's happy. Everyone's learning from it, and Batman works well. Flash works well. Everyone, it just worked.
I kind of wish they hadn't have had it in the trailer, just so when you get to the scene, it's very fresh because it is so good. But then again, they need people to see the movie, and the trailer was shit, so yeah.
Apparently it didn't work too well.
Yeah.
A lot of the marketing was not good for this.
Awful. Someone needs to be
I liked him as a character. He reminded me of a lot of Spider-Man from Homecoming. Okay. So yeah.
The fanboy aspect?
Just the whole quirky nervousness.
I feel like the Flash is more actually has anxiety and like very awkward around people socially, whereas I think Spider-Man he's a normal teenager who does have the nervous moments. That's how I take it, but yeah.
Well, I mean, both of them were very much, not the popular kid in the school when they were young, you can tell. And now they suddenly have powers and can do things no one can, and it's new and exciting to them, and they can do this, but they don't really have those social graces that, that they, quarterback on the football team might have.
All right, that's a good segue into Cyborg. It's not easy to say. But,
oh, wow, that worked perfectly. You could almost say I planned that.
What did people think of Ray Fisher as Cyborg?
He worked well, I thought. I mean, he did the job he was given. He played it well. I just wish we had more of it. I mean, we've seen, if you've seen any of the deleted scenes online, there were tons of them, and like half of them seemed to be with him in it. And I would have liked to have known more of him and his story. And this is another example of where I wish we'd gotten his movie first, because this is kind of a big story and important and complicated. And, I know it because I read the comics, but did you all get it? If you haven't?
I get it, but I think that...
I don't think it was good.
Do you care?
If they had a movie about him and being turned into Cyborg, I think that would have been very, very emotional and hard-hitting, and would have been very, very good because the actor was so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought the actor did a great job. I just didn't really like what they did with the character or really much about. I don't know. I don't know. I could have done without him.
Yeah, I was very impressed with the actor. I'm not really familiar with him, but I thought he has a great voice and a great presence. And I don't know if they needed a whole movie or not, but I think they definitely needed some more scenes to set him up, because I feel like they actually do a decent job of giving him an actual kind of story arc within this movie. But he starts, we don't really know anything about him. I don't think too many casual fans know anything about him or much about him. Right.
Yeah.
And I think the actor did a great job with everything he was given, but we could have used those deleted scenes. I think in his case would have been very helpful.
Right.
Yeah. And with the actor, Ray Fisher, he actually has been a stage actor, and that's quite possibly why his voice performance and his presence on screen is so good, quite possibly.
I thought the character was fine in the movie. I mean, I thought the actor did good. I didn't like the way he looked. The CGI was kind of wonky. I was glad to see they sort of, in that ending sort of montage, showed him kind of changing the way he looked to be more like the comics. I think a lot of kids probably know him from the Teen Titans Go cartoon.
Exactly.
At least younger kids.
Or the Teen Titans cartoon before that. Yeah.
Where he's much lighter. So
right.
But the whole series is lighter because it's a kid's cartoon. But
yeah, they do a little booyah shout out at the end there for him, which I appreciated, I guess.
Yeah. I mean,
and I've always, like, to me, Cyborg's Teen Titans character.
Exactly. Oh, I was a huge Titans fan when the new Titans started with him in it. And to me, he'll always be in that. And I understand, I mean, it's the reality of the world we live in that these heroes, there aren't a lot of black and Asian and other racial superheroes. So I understand you want to throw them in to your big team because otherwise, you've got a big group of white men and Wonder Woman. And it almost doesn't fit here, although when you throw in the whole Barry's a kid and doesn't know better, it works a little better, I think. Otherwise, he'd be like in the comics, he's like the one kid who's new, which is kind of awkward. And they actually did that in the Super Friends way back when, like one of the last few seasons they aired of it, where they used him as like the new kid that is learning. But I don't know. It works, given that we have him in here and he's going to be in here and that he's not going to be in a Titans movie or whatever. I liked it, and I thought it worked really well. The character's interesting, major changes to his origin, because in the original, if you don't know, in the comics, like his father and mother were trying to pierce extra-dimensional barriers and instead let a monster through that killed his mother and caused all the problems with Cyborg, and we later find out led his father to a terminal death, which I don't know if they're going to get to in the movie or not, but his father dies in like the 7th issue of Titans or something like that. So I don't know if he'll be around long in the movies or not, but I liked having him alive, and I liked how it worked. So
he's fine as a character. I just wish we had Jon Stewart, the Green Lantern.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome.
They could have even just had Ray Fisher be Jon Stewart, quite possibly. Like,
he's a little young for Jon.
He's 30.
He definitely could have done it.
He could have done it.
Yeah.
I think that honestly, DC was scared after Green Lantern movie did so badly. So I guess, we got the little hint of it in there, and which I loved.
Yeah. Are we painted into a corner to have Hal Jordan now, or is there any way we can skip Hal Jordan, do you think?
Skip.
Yeah. I hope. Hal Jordan's not the worst, but you don't need him. Definitely, all 4 of the main Earth Lanterns, to me, are fine. Mm-hmm. But for a movie, I would think Jon Stewart would be the way to go.
It's like Guy Gardner all the way, right? Well,
isn't the movie?
Well, remember they were talking about was it Denzel? They're like, Denzel's room for Justice League. Right. I was like, oh, well, that's because that's Jon Stewart as the retired.
They haven't cast it yet, right?
Retired Marine.
They have announced that one of the later, a few years down the line, movies is now going to be Green Lantern Corps, which by Corps it could be anyone. We could get Hal and John. We could get all of them and others if we want to. So presumably we're going to get lots of them.
Yeah,
So
just
the
don't
question is, will it
CGI the
focus-
costume, you know? Just
Right,
save
right.
some money on that.
This seems like a no-brainer. I mean, Jon Stewart is the Green Lantern for like the whole '90s generation,
Yeah.
right? For the Justice League cartoon.
In the cartoon. Yeah.
Right.
So I don't know why they didn't do that.
Yeah, I would be surprised if he's not, but I feel like they're kind of stuck with how just the way they've kind of not had any Green Lanterns yet. It's kind of difficult to start with someone else.
The next one is, like I said, the next next appearance we're probably going to get is going to be in the movie, which is Green Lantern Corps. So we may just not have one. It may be, maybe they'll do Hal and John both at the same time coming in.
Why not just skip the origin, start off with them like, you know, the Green Lanterns, yada, yada, yada. And here's a few of them doing some stuff. And he'd be like, I remember when I got this ring several years ago and I haven't been back to Earth since, which explains where I've been.
Right. Which they may do.
I mean, you could do it several ways. Like Hal Jordan got the ring and nothing was going on Earth, so he's never been on Earth, you know?
Right.
And now Jon Stewart.
Well, we don't know. We don't know yet what they're doing. They haven't announced any actors for either.
Yeah, you have way more faith than I do that there'll ever be a Green Lantern Corps movie. I just don't think...
it's planned. It's in the planning. So, I mean, that doesn't mean it's going to happen for sure, but at least they're planning on it, unlike, 2 years ago when they weren't.
Remember that movie that Marvel was making?
Yeah.
Right.
I remember when we recorded the Batman versus Superman, and we were talking about a Ben Affleck trilogy of Batman movies that were in the plans. So
things could happen.
Yeah,
there's a universe where they've already been made.
Right. There are many parallel universes.
Okay. Anything else on
Green Lantern?
Fisher?
Never mind.
Ray Fisher, Green Lantern. All right, let's talk about Jason Momoa as Aquaman / Arthur Curry.
Best part of the movie.
Khal Drogo.
I'm torn a lot.
Oh, I'm not torn. I mean, he's having fun. It's one of the few fun parts of the movie. And a lot of people said it's not, they're Aquaman.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it really is pretty similar to that 90s Warrior King Aquaman that I really liked. So, I loved it. And one of my other favorite scenes is him sitting on the lasso.
Yeah.
Jason Momoa, I think, is a really underrated actor. I mean, I don't know if he can play Hamlet, but I think he can act when he in certain scenes. The stuff he's done. I liked it a lot.
I think he has to have certain characters, though, because if you look through the stuff he's done, it tends to be more masculine, powerful,
Gruff.
like fighter warrior roles.
Gruff warrior,
is what he does mainly, and I think he does them quite well.
I guess it's weird because that's never how I saw Aquaman, but I mean, characters have evolved over the years. I mean, it's funny because on some level, I've just this week been making fun of the diehard fans who are pissed in the Supergirl TV show that Saturn Girl isn't a blonde. But I will admit that with Aquaman, it really bothers me that he's not blonde, and I don't know why.
But he has blonde highlights.
Oh, there was Saturn Girl?
They're so fake. They're so fake. Yeah, they just did Saturn Girl and Supergirl like Monday.
Yeah.
And I actually haven't watched.
Wait, she wasn't a blonde? I can't watch that show anymore.
Right? So they're really mad. The fans are really, really, really mad. But and I don't care so much. But for some reason, for Aquaman, it bothers me more, and I'm not sure why. Even though I'm much more a Legion fan, but his character's weird because Aquaman has changed over the years so much in the comics that it's hard to say what is Aquaman. But it feels a little more aggressive macho than I expect from the comics. But I liked it, so I don't know.
He never talked to the fish. That's the problem.
Right. We need that. But seriously,
I was really hoping that we would get that where the great white sharks jump out of the water, like in the...
Yes. Which
I do love the transition from like this dude that, over the years that swims with swims underwater and talks to fish to get them to help him, to this guy who's like, oh, he's extremely strong and durable and kind of a badass. And yeah, he lost his arm or, his hand at one point. And, he's the king of Atlantis. And, he's kind of on par with these guys now as far as, when it comes to the battle, right? Whereas before it was like, he's been away from water for 10 minutes. Oh my God, get it back.
Yeah, exactly.
It does kind of bug me that and they did this in every TV show he's been in, and in the movie now, he doesn't swim under the water. He flies underwater.
Right.
And that kind of bugs me, but I mean, I don't know. I guess it would look goofy having him try to swim, but
I like the swimming effect.
Swim. But he should swim. I mean, he's in water. He swims.
I thought we were cut so short on everything that we got on him. Right. That's kind of the problem.
Yeah, we know they filmed more stuff with Aquaman because William Dafoe filmed stuff for this movie, and he's Volko, I think, right? And so we know there's more Aquaman stuff in it. I don't know if the reshoot was that mirror scene, but that seemed weird.
Yeah, because
although Mira kicked ass, I liked it.
Yeah,
I liked it a lot.
I'm confused now about what Aquaman has or has not done. His relationship with Atlantis. Apparently, I didn't get it from the movie, but apparently, he has never been there before.
Yeah, he appears to have no relationship.
What it sounds like.
Oh no, I felt like he was already king.
No, well, it seemed like
it wasn't clear. It wasn't clear.
Like they were first meeting, but he knew what it was, and he had been there, and he kind of was into it.
Yeah,
but
I think
she was like, "Nice to meet you. I'm Mira." Like, I feel like if you go through the breakdown of like some of the stuff that's been deleted or whatever, there was like a whole big sequence in Atlantis. We don't know the context really of that.
I feel
like he gets his armor and all that, right?
Yeah, he gets his trident and armor and stuff.
And the trident, I thought, was strange because he says he needed it, but it didn't seem to have any special power.
At one point, he just throws it away, and I'm like, "Oh man, we're never going to see it again." But then
I guess it's magic because it could hurt Steppenwolf, maybe. But
they're trying to be Thor's hammery.
Well, he used it to hold back the sea. You know.
Oh, that's true. He did do that.
Or postpone it a little bit. But
with this power, I can slow the water down a little bit.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot better than what any of the other superheroes there could have done. It's a lot better. I
needed some fish. Here.
There was a whale he flew by at one point.
Just some fish. Like at some point, a whale should come out and jumped out. A whale or a shark or something should have jumped out and knocked someone somewhere, and I would have been happy. I need to just
see. Part of the problem is that like they had this at like fake Chernobyl, which I think clearly was supposed to be Chernobyl. Then they backed out on that. No one sees them do this. Number one, at the end of the movie, where they're like, "It's the Justice League," and look, you saved the world. I'm like, did anyone know the world was in danger? Like,
right?
Did anyone film it on that high?
Yeah. Like those people that you saved knew, but they're just like kind of some weird irradiated Russian settlers that no one probably listens to.
Although I think one of the reasons they did that, making it out in the middle of nowhere, was because
because of the criticism,
right? Because in Man of Steel, it bothered me that probably a few 100,000 people died in that battle.
No, those were just downtown office buildings.
No,
they were
no one's in. No one's walking by.
It was a weekend. Obviously.
They were all.
I have to admit that it was weird. It was in the middle of nowhere, but I was glad that it was only that one little family that we got to know that they saved.
It felt kind of jarring though, because it seems like they're doing this because people were like, why aren't he saving the people?
Right.
Which I didn't mind that so much, especially in Man of Steel, because he shows up and he's just new Superman, and like the whole city's going to get wrecked. That would make sense. But you don't have to like the fact that it happens, but it makes sense. And here it's like, well, if it had been wider scale, if it had been a city, you could have had like an ocean and maybe like, I don't know, maybe some like monsters come out of the ocean and help out.
Some krakens.
I wasn't going to say anything about it, but they do have the Greek gods, so maybe they could release the kraken. I don't know.
We've got 2 krakens on this cast. We have to have some krakens in the movie.
Okay, so as a non-comic book reader, I didn't hate Jason Momoa's Aquaman, but I also think he's very, very, very dude bro-y, and I'm expecting him to break out a surfboard anytime.
Yeah.
And I didn't like his blue contacts. I personally would have preferred it if it was just his normal eye color, personally. And I think I would have preferred that because I found the eye contacts very, very distracting. But I did like the hair, and his costume was pretty. But
needed more green.
Here's a question. Did you get kind of the idea behind Flash, Cyborg, and Aquaman, having not seen the movies and not being a comic fan? Did you get it? Did you feel like you had enough, or did you feel like you needed more?
Okay, so with it, I watched Young Justice a lot and some of the Batman shows, so I'm not a complete newbie to them, and like I watched at least the first season of The Flash. So I'm not a complete newbie, but I think with Aquaman, I would have really appreciated seeing more. And I think Cyborg also could have been helped a bit. I think the Flash's stuff is very self-explanatory, and we've seen him in a lot of different iterations, and he is a part of a big TV show on screen. So I think you don't need to spend as much time with him as I think you do with Cyborg and Aquaman. But I think with Aquaman, they used a bit of a shorthand where it's like, dude bro character. Okay, go from here.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think Cyborg, they tried to flesh him out a bit. I would have appreciated a bit more, but I think he got the most character development out of all of them in this movie. And I think you needed to do that. Otherwise, his character would not make any sense at all.
Well, given that he was also pretty integral to the plot, unlike, Flash's backstory had very little to do with the plot. Aquaman's did somewhat because he had one of the mother boxes, but Cyborg was pretty integral to everything going on.
Yeah. So, question, did you guys like the pale blue contacts in Jason Momoa, or did you think it was awkward as well, or did you like the fact that it was more fitting to the comics?
Or we didn't even really notice?
I was going to go with that. I didn't notice.
Yeah,
I noticed them.
I noticed. I thought it was... I didn't
I kind of liked
really...
it.
Yeah, I guess I was neutral positive. I guess it didn't make any real effect on me one way or the other. I liked it kind of differentiated him a little bit, that he was not
otherworldly
surface dweller or whatever they call it in their language.
I also quite liked the fact he was Polynesian and that they did cast Jason Momoa. But then again, they had it so the place he's living is a very cold climate, so it's more like, well, you might be
blonde
Polynesian, but no one else in the village that you live in is
Well, I don't
Polynesian.
think he lives there. I think he just comes
I kind of got that he was. He was all over the place, I thought.
He lived there because we only ever saw him there rather than like going around to different.
They said he comes like once a year or whatever. Isn't that what
the
whole thing?
tide or something?
Right.
And then I guess where else does he go if he doesn't? He lives in the sea, sort of, but not in Atlantis. Like, what does he do?
Yeah.
I mean, he's got
Does he go to Hawaii and surf the big waves?
No, he's in the
Hopefully we'll get that answer in his movie, but
yeah, he's got a what is it called, Happy Harbor or whatever. He's got a lighthouse that he lives in.
No,
Coastal bar to coastal bar.
Happy Harbor was the Justice League originals.
Oh,
and as well,
that was the original headquarters of the Justice League.
Where did I forget?
As a knitter, I just want to say his jumper was great. There you go.
I'm sorry, say it again. I didn't catch that.
I knit like a lot, and I really liked his jumper, like the Aaron with all the cables and yeah.
For Americans, that's shirt. That's shirt.
Okay.
No, it wasn't his shirt. It was his pullover, his sweater.
Oh, his sweater.
In America, we just say shirt. We don't really
the
say
blockbusters
more so sweater.
lately has been like the jacket cast, man. Like
I don't know. I think
like Blade Runner and Thor and this.
We had a whole fashion cast.
I tried to
the
make
South, we don't do sweaters too much. The American South.
We did.
Agreed.
Our linear reread was fashion casts.
There was a lot of clothing talk. I did not cause that at all.
Yes, you did. We all did. It was fabulous. Continue.
But yeah, that's all I have to add with Jason Momoa.
All right.
I think
we can fashion talk Superman, who has a newly bright blue uniform. No black, no navy blue.
With muscles drawn on?
He had like muscle pads on it for some reason, which isn't.
If there's one person that doesn't need muscle accentuation
right
in this movie,
right,
it's Cavill. I mean, even more swole than Affleck.
Ben Affleck.
Especially when most of the first scenes with him, for the first like 10 minutes, 15 minutes he's in the movie, he's shirtless.
You could put him in Christopher Reeve's light sky blue tights and he would have looked awesome.
Right.
Probably.
So
Do you think they chose the lighter blue because it's more like hopeful?
Yes.
So it's gone from being very dark and now he's getting more and more hopeful, or they're trying to make it more and more hopeful. So it's getting lighter.
I think they're definitely trying to be more traditional take on his character than they did in the first movie.
Need to put the red underwear back on.
Yeah, I liked how he worked in this movie. I liked character-wise him being the symbol of hope because that is Superman, and there wasn't much I didn't like about it. So
Yeah. Oh, I really liked the corn scene at the farm where he was outside with.
That's where I went to pee.
Corn. It was
Ah.
so pretty though.
That might be my favorite scene, I think, actually.
It was gorgeous to look at.
as was his
I
chest.
really liked. Oh yes, as was his chest. Yeah.
Sorry. It's true, though. But let's be honest.
He's a very attractive man.
He's not even really my type, but there's something about him that's hot.
You know, it totally bugs me that you can see his chest hairs poking out of the costume.
What?
That's
pure Superman. Superman has chest hair.
No, it's not. No,
Yes, it is.
Not it. Well, it depends on which era you're talking.
Death of Superman?
I mean, before, let's face it, before, the late 80s, men didn't have chest hair in comics. So that was a very late, burn and on kind of things. But
if you go far enough back.
I
feel like when Batman is dueling Ra's al Ghul, he's got chest hair, too. I feel like
Neil Adams.
That's when he's shirtless and the
Neil
cowl.
Adams is...
That was very Neil Adams.
Yeah.
If you could go shirtless and the cowl, it works.
Yeah.
Yes, only with Neil Adams. And that's
cape.
the weird thing, is the character changed over the years. Both of them, Superman and Batman, have had generally none, and then one actor would come in and throw it in, and then the rest, one artist would come in and throw it in, and then again none. So did he just start shaving? Kind of like in the movies, like Daredevil, he's blind but he shaves his chest. Huh? Why would he do that if he's blind?
So he can feel the air better, obviously.
Yeah,
his costume.
I mean, he can
his
sense
costume.
those hairs more.
In the costume.
Otherwise, he hears those chest hairs rubbing together, and he's like, "Man, that's too
He goes
annoying."
deaf, yeah.
Maybe,
It's too loud.
maybe. That'll work.
It's like sandpaper on his body.
But I
gotta shave
didn't
it.
notice the chest hairs on Superman poking out.
I didn't.
I think he did in Batman vs. Superman. Here, he's obviously when he's shirtless, but I'm trying to remember if they poke out here. But
I was hoping he'd have a super mullet when he came back.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. Okay.
Oh no!
Wait a second.
Okay.
There were production photos of him in the black costume, right, with a beard.
Yes. Well, no, there were
Okay.
production
deleted scene.
photos of a black costume. I don't think we've ever seen him in it. I don't think.
I've
It
seen.
was photoshopped.
Yeah,
Oh, was it?
Was it?
I
Maybe.
believe
Okay.
so.
Yeah.
Because they were planning on it. That was because they rewrote the entire storyline after he comes back. He was very darker in the original.
Well, I think.
yeah, I mean,
setup
it's in the
Batman
trailers and
versus
the
Superman.
promos and stuff too, where Alfred's like, "Oh, he said you'd come." There's a whole bunch of stuff in the promos and in the trailers that just never shows up.
Right. Well, because they filmed it and then changed the entire storyline. So
Well, I think after he leaves the
Do we know who
farm-
Alfred was talking to?
I think
supposedly
when he
it
leaves
Not
the
for
farm-
certain.
it was supposed to be Superman,
Yeah.
from what I've heard. They think.
I think that's a step from the farm to Russia as he goes to the Batcave. But we
Right.
don't know that.
Where there's a suit waiting for him, right? That would make sense.
And that's why it's a lighter blue.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
because he
he
doesn't
Bruce
have
likes them
a.
in lighter
There's
blue.
no Fortress of Solitude in this world, right? He never had time for that.
Yeah.
There's the crash ship.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
the crash ship.
On the CW there is, but I don't think on here, no. Oh, there could be, and we just didn't see it. Because, presumably things happened in between the movies that we don't know about, so.
Well, maybe not. Does he fly north in the end of Man of Steel? Was there a reference to that when he's talking to the general with the drone? I was thinking there was, but maybe not.
I mean, he goes on that walkabout in Batman vs. Superman, but I don't think he's in the mountains, but I don't think he ever goes.
Where he sees Jonathan Kent's ghost.
Yeah. Not enough dream sequences in this one for you, Shane? You didn't like the lack of ghosts and dream sequences?
Bat creatures.
I was fine without them.
Okay.
Bat visions and Superman visions. One of my other favorite scenes did involve Henry Cavill after the Superman, after the resurrection, and that was when he's fighting the Justice League, and the Flash starts running, and it's in slow motion.
Yeah.
And then you see Superman's eyes start trash in the Flash. That was a really cool action scene.
Yeah, that whole fight scene is worth it for that alone, I think.
Oh, with that scene, I don't think it makes sense for Wonder Woman to tell Batman, no, he can't be there, but instead they have 3 people that Superman has never met before in his life there. I think it would make way more sense just to have Superman there to try to talk him down, and then maybe his mum and Lois Lane.
Yeah.
But, like, because otherwise it's, you've been brought back to life, here are these weird strangers with their superhero costumes and some guys with a bloody trident. Like,
Why?
it doesn't make
Killed someone with a trident.
You want sense from a superhero movie? Come on.
It all goes
What do you
sideways.
know?
Wonder Woman knew
pacify
that his
Superman?
brain was fried and he was just going to remember Bat hate.
Yeah.
You know, she knew that.
But the thing is, like,
Well, I don't
with
think
it,
they're
if you're
prepared
trying to
for it.
pacify him, like Wonder Woman standing there, and doesn't she have her weapons out? And I'm
No,
like,
she's got
bro?
her shield and sword at her
Shield.
back, but
no, but I think she's holding her shield out, not even like down. It's like up and out.
Yeah, they're
to
totally
protect-
in costume and everything there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, man, that is not a way to pacify someone.
But if it doesn't work, then he's gonna just pop his mother's head off and kill Lois Lane.
I know, but like
I thought
maybe
when-
have them standing in the back, ready to come forward.
well, they are, but they're in the Kryptonian ship. They don't expect them to fly out of there right away. So I think Batman has them close to the Kryptonian ship, and then he's got to retrieve them, or retrieve Lois, and bring her to whatever Superman Park or whatever it's called there. So I don't think they're 100% prepared for him to just like shoot off and blow his
When
shirt
Superman
off.
was crushing Batman's skull, I was
He's not
seriously
crushing it.
waiting for him to say, Martha!
Well, that's
Remember
the most
Martha.
unrealistic part of this movie is the fact that, like, in the beginning, that like the Kent farm is in foreclosure. And you're like,
Yeah.
man, her name's Martha. You know he was taking care of that. Like,
Yeah,
come on.
it's all to pay
Yeah.
off
Yeah.
at the end, but there's no way that Bruce is not paying off her mortgage. I mean, it's just
like
it's
that
not gonna
Superman's
happen.
body is there.
Yeah,
like,
but it's all to pay off the final scene. So
yeah.
Yeah, I never thought about that. He would.
Yep.
Well, it's
Yeah.
not
The
body's not
government
buried
wouldn't
in the
allow
farm,
that
is
to
it?
happen. You would think.
Is
right?
it buried in the backyard of the farm?
Yeah, he's buried in the farm.
No,
That's
'cause
where
they
go to
they-
get him.
they go into like a don't they have like a
No, when-
procession
when-
from the farm to the because they have the showing
No,
at the
it's
farm.
the other way around. Is they have like the main funeral that shows him being buried, and then it's like, yeah, actually
Wait.
he's buried here on the farm. And when
Except
she
that- wait,
leaves, it shows the gravestones.
Is that where was that scene that we were just talking about earlier about Flash and Cyborg digging him up? Where did that happen?
I think
We don't-
there's
That's the
a
Kent farm.
I think there's a
Was it on the
Smallville
farm?
cemetery because I
I mean,
remember like
yeah,
a
it's
procession.
not like
Very next to his
cemetery.
dad.
Yeah,
It
Maybe-
felt like a
because
cemetery.
because when she's driving from the farm, when she's leaving it initially in the beginning, it shows the 2 gravestones for both of them. Like she's leaving them behind.
Whether
on the
it's
farm.
in, it might
That'd
be
be
in a
so
small
weird.
town though. So
Do you want to
it
buy
might
this
be-
house? There's a couple of graves in the backyard.
Yeah, but that's
Indian
how it
burial
is out in the
site
country.
for a movie.
Yeah,
A lot
that's
of
the way
people
it
are,
is
you
in
know,
America,
buried
in
in
the
the farm.
country, yeah.
Like, you know.
but I think I could be wrong, but I think there's a Smallville cemetery that we see at the end of the first movie. I could be wrong, but
I thought it was like on their property. I thought it was like the family cemetery that they show, but I don't know. We'd have to go back and look
Yeah.
at it.
Reward.
I agree. If it was in the backyard, there's no way Bruce Wayne would have let that property.
Well, yeah,
People
yeah,
go.
regardless,
Yeah,
he's
I mean, it
taking
probably
care
should have
of
been
her.
paid off by now anyway. Lois could have helped. Foreclosure takes a long ass time.
Well, I
for
don't
them
think
to
she
actually
told
kick you
anyone,
out.
though. She didn't tell Lois. That's kind of the point.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Lois would know. I mean, Lois is out there writing cat pieces.
She's a reporter.
Come on.
She's a reporter.
Question.
Yeah, but she's broken.
Do we know how long it was between Batman versus Superman versus Batman, Man of Steel? No, the last movie and this one where Superman died. So do we know how long he has been dead?
They referenced it in the movie, but I don't remember.
I feel like it was 6 months. That's the number in my head. I don't know if that's real though.
Yeah, I think in the beginning, like when they do the voiceover TV news anchor thing, I feels like it's something like 6 months or something, but I can't swear to it. But that's also the number that came into my head.
Yeah, but don't they reference that his body's not decomposing or it hasn't decomposed?
Yeah.
I don't know how they know that exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, how is his body not rotting so we get zombie Superman?
Because he's not really
Unless
dead.
he's not actually dead.
He's an alien.
He's not really dead.
And he's just passed out.
He's an alien and he's vulnerable.
Also, the dirt in the end of BVS was floating on the grave.
It was.
Apparently for no reason, because
it was going to the end. It was going to. They were apparently going to do a totally different resurrection in the original version, so that's what that was leading to, but it didn't. Another dead end.
Well, why would they ignore it?
Well, it was like his hand reaching out of the grave or something, right?
No. It was just
why would they ignore it? Because they want it. Because it was a flop, and they want to move on. That's why.
It was not a flop. It made more money than this movie's going to make.
Maybe.
We
don't know that yet.
But not more than they were hoping this movie would make.
Hey, we don't know how much it is going to make. Let's not talk about that. We can talk about the first weekend, but that's it because that's all the facts we have.
Okay. It made, what, 70 million more the first weekend or something?
Made like 93 total, right?
The first weekend? Yeah.
It's for 100 now, but...
Yeah, I think it'll have a good second weekend, or a relatively good second weekend, but...
I don't think it will.
It's Thanksgiving weekend, though, and the word of mouth hasn't been anywhere near as bad as the other.
It's weird because the reviews have been really bad, but the people who've seen it seem to like it, but then again, not as many people saw it. I mean, Justice League did half as much as like the Avengers and Captain America movies, so was it just the people who really wanted to see it liked it? I guess we'll have a sense in a few weeks.
Yep. Plus, they have a long time
Superman made 166 million its first weekend, so that's $70 million more than this movie made.
Which is almost close to double.
But this one has a few more weeks until Star Wars comes out because that's on like the 14th or something.
Although it's still up against Ragnarok a little bit. Although that's leaving all the theaters around here like next week. But
okay, any secondary characters people want to talk about that we're impressed with or not impressed with? Or
are we going to talk about the really, really bad Lois Lane thirsty joke, or leave that to die?
Sure.
Oh, that was awkwardly funny.
Yeah,
that was
like
horrific.
It was like mom humor, like unintentional mother humor.
Yeah, that's how is that horrific? That's just like an old person who doesn't get, doesn't get references, not understanding what that means. Like,
right.
Oh man, maybe, but watching it, I was just like, did the actress make a mistake and they decided to use it in the final cut?
They kept it. It's like Thor Ragnarok. It was 80% improv.
Yeah. That's actually what I thought. I was just
Clark said you were such a thirsty reporter. Now, like, if you've never heard people using that term the way they use it nowadays,
right?
Like, you're like hungry for a story, thirsty for a story. What's the difference, right? Like, sure.
Yeah, I don't love Amy Adams as Lois Lane, but I thought that her portrayal and Martha Kent's portrayal of kind of grief, I thought was really poignant and really well done here. And like I said, I'm not thrilled with it. I think Amy Adams is a great actress. I just don't love her as Lois Lane, but I liked very much all of her scenes in this movie.
Right. Well, I mean, let's be honest. All of the supporting characters from each of these individual heroes' worlds were minor. I mean, we got a little more. Lois was kind of important because she helped bring him back. But, I mean, none of them were major. The point here was this battle, that we were leading to. So all the others were just sort of hey, like, a little, almost an Easter egg to the fans. Like, hey, don't forget, Alfred's still here.
Commissioner Gordon.
Right. All those.
Christmas
Although
Island.
Lois Lane, supposedly, if they don't totally change it, is going to be somehow important in the future because the Flash references her in that.
They totally
Vision.
changed it, man.
Did they? We're just going to ignore that.
Yeah, I don't think, like David said, their original plan to bring back Superman, I think,
Totally
was completely different from what they ended up doing. So I think
that could be still yet to come, though.
there was supposedly
Flash.
there's nothing more to come.
Right. There was a
that
scene
Flash
where
knows how to travel through time.
Right. There was a scene where he actually goes back in time and tells someone something and all that they ended up cutting out.
Oh,
so
really?
There actually was. Yeah, I heard that among the deleted scenes, or whether they filmed it or not, I'm not sure. But there was a scene where Flash he later talks about something and then he goes back. I forget exactly the details. But
You
he
mean
then
from
goes
BVS?
back. No, like right now. Just in this
Oh.
He later, towards the end of the movie, goes back in time and tells someone something earlier in the movie.
He goes back to I thought maybe he goes back to like warn Bruce, like, have a nightmare dream.
No. Nope. So,
Oh no, I'm too far.
although I will say the one guest star who I really liked, and in fact it was interesting because we didn't get a lot of any of these other new character stories other than maybe Cyborg's father. But I really, really liked Mera in her brief bit. She was powerful. She was. I mean, I never thought I'd see Mera in a movie. As a DC fan, but she was awesome. I thought.
Yeah, they nailed her costume. She looks perfect in it. I'm really I was looking forward to. I'm not looking forward to it as much as I was looking forward to Wonder Woman, but I am looking forward to Aquaman. I'd be interested to see Atlantis and what they kind of do with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm curious because it seems like I guess they can't talk underwater. They need Mera to make bubbles. So.
They gotta fix that.
Yeah.
That can't be the movie.
It can't work. How does that work for a society and a culture? I mean,
Yeah.
The director of that movie said it's not going to be like that.
Yeah, it's just because maybe she was like, I haven't seen him before, so I must talk to him in the air.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's Aquaman doesn't know how to yet.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that could be it. That could work.
But I'm interested to see Aquaman, having seen that scene, because the costumes were pretty.
Mm-hmm.
That's the worst reason to see a movie ever. But
are you making this fashion cast again?
I like pretty costumes, okay?
That's fine.
If costumes are really bad, I really don't like Batman's costume in this. I hate it so much.
Mm-hmm.
His first costume's good, I think.
The first one or the last one was tactical
he's got
Batman.
3 or 4. I think his first one's very good, but after that it's kind of downhill.
I don't like the tealy colored one. I hate it so much.
But you have to have 4 or 5 so that you can have action figures of each one. See, that's important.
No, it's probably because they get destroyed so much that it's just okay, next one.
That's the excuse. The truth is, it's more merchandising, because that's where half the money comes from. These things is they're going to sell toys, they're going to sell action figures.
They made an action figure of the bat creature that comes out of him in his dream in Batman vs Superman.
Right, and they will.
It didn't sell.
Who's buying these things?
Nerds.
No one really.
No, I think no one.
Nerds and kids. There are people who have every single costume variation of everyone, but
I guess completists maybe.
I don't know if they count as secondary characters, but I thought the Amazons were really good in this movie. I thought that was one of the better fights.
Oh yeah, they were great again.
Oh, that
we getting killed left and right. It was sad.
That leads to the whole controversy.
As you've seen, there are a lot of them.
So much in this movie. I don't know.
I thought they were fine. I thought they worked for what they were supposed to be. I mean, yeah, their costume showed a little more skin, which makes no sense for a warrior. But then again, you could say that about Wonder Woman from the start. I mean, she fought crime in a bikini. I mean, in a 2-piece bikini.
That is what the classic vision of them looks like, though, mythology.
Exactly.
So
and it makes no sense whatsoever because it's made by a man who was very feminist, but yet dealt with repressive sexual tendencies a lot, which you can see she's in a bikini.
No, I was worried it's going to be more of them that looked that way, but it was only a few of them. sort of in the background.
I felt like it was only the ones guarding the actual temple or whatever that were holding the mother box in. I felt like they were the ones that were dressed with the bare midriffs. But
they had to hold their bows way too long.
Yeah.
And let's face it, they probably don't do a lot of fighting if they've been standing there guarding that for, 1,000 years.
Well, I think they just train constantly, but I liked the way they worked together, and I liked ultimately how when they did bring the whole legions of Amazons coming over the hill, that Steppenwolf just booked it out of there.
Did anyone else think that Queen Hippolyta had died a couple times? During that sequence, I was like, "Oh no, she's dead." Oh nope, that wasn't her. That wasn't her. Someone else.
Yeah.
I thought she was gonna die.
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna kill her, that would be a good moment, It
would have been. I don't know why I didn't like the Amazons in this one. I think it's because I thought that what they were trying to do, the first time he catches up to them when they're on horseback and they don't do anything else, they just continue to sort of ride off. And I'm like, yeah, this isn't going to end well because he's obviously traveling a lot faster than you are. He's going to catch you. So I thought it was silly in that aspect.
Well, I think they're just trying to catch up with the reinforcements, I think. They're riding towards help. I did feel like he got to kill too many of them or something, but it was kind of tough to watch a little bit.
Yeah.
They always seem so ill-prepared when they get attacked.
At least in Wonder Woman, you got to see them being complete and utter badasses, and they focused a lot more on the fighting, whereas I think that might be why I didn't quite like this one as much, because it focused a lot on fleeing more than fighting, possibly. But
I liked it though because I thought it showed their nobility and their selflessness, because they knew they didn't have the numbers to fight him, and they were constantly sacrificing themselves, like the ones that were knocking the pillars out in the thing, and then the ones on the horseback. I thought it showed they were awesome. I love that they kept the horse work in there with the bow and arrow work. Like when she ties, she sees Steppenwolf coming, but she ties the rope to the thing to the arrow and shoots it, and the other one catches it. I thought it was pretty awesome. Mm-hmm. It really showed their nobility and their skill.
Yeah.
Which, if you think about it, I mean, they've been these warriors who were set to protect and fight for all these centuries. But when was the last time, they actually had a fight? World War I?
Well, yeah, that's just it. It's when people show up, they're pretty well prepared and their skills are still honed. But
it hasn't happened for 50 years.
They go right into it. They're not afraid or anything, so that's cool. But they don't really get a lot of action.
Right.
And guns just kill them. So
they need to get some guns. Diana needs to send some back.
Yeah, it's weird that they're kind of technologically stagnant. I don't think they need guns necessarily, but they seem to have the exact same technology they had 5,000 years ago, and they've never advanced.
Well, they haven't had a fight. I mean, if you think about it, maybe there have been other invasions we don't know about or things they fought about, but I mean, the last time the Amazons had to do anything was in the movie, which was in the teens.
World War I.
Yeah, World War I. So we're talking almost 100 years ago. They haven't had to do anything. Why would they need guns? They don't need them for anything. No one's invaded them. They never had any issues. They're hidden from the world. I mean, as far as they know, this bow and arrow is going to do us just fine. Although you could argue maybe in the first Wonder Woman movie, they learned it wasn't. So maybe at that point they needed to learn. I don't know.
Yeah, in the comics, their technology advances, and they're kind of like Atlantis as well. They don't have a lot of contact, but their technology advances.
It's almost like sorcery technology, though. It's not. I guess they're
both.
They have the purple healing ray, but not so much like warrior stuff, though. Do they like these versions of these characters more than the others?
I think they're interesting. I mean, I think we've had a huge tonal shift with this movie from what we've seen before, but I found their takes on all the characters very interesting in the first few movies. It's an interesting Superman. It's not a Superman that I like, but the old Superman from Man of Steel and stuff was an interesting take on the character. Mm-hmm. The kind of grumpy, middle-aged Batman, asshole Batman is, again, it's an interesting take on the character. I'd like to see more, but I think we've had a huge tonal shift, so I don't know what the next movie, I suspect, is going to be more conventional, which I lament the loss of the kind of wacky BVS world.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Aquaman's going to be a big blockbuster movie, and it's going to be quite a typical superhero movie, just because of the actor they have playing him, because that fits his style a lot more.
Yeah.
Compared to the other ones, I don't know. I do think I like Superman in this one more. I think I much preferred Wonder Woman in her own movie because we got to see her as a character grow more. But I'm interested to see what they do with the other characters going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's weird because the characters are different but similar. Like, I don't know if, like, older Batman, like, as a mentor works as well. You know, it might work with Barry with Wally or newer characters, but it's weird to me that, like, we have Superman, Batman, and Woman as kind of the trinity that have been doing this forever, even though we just met Wonder Woman recently. And, you know, then we've got everyone else is, like, new and fresh. Like, Barry is just, Barry and Batman, Barry and the rest should be, like, concurrent temporally, and the fact that he's, like, the kid is weird to me, although I'm liking it. So, I don't know. I'm not sure where I go with it, but the differences don't bother me so much because I understand that what works in a movie and what works on a TV show and what works in comics are completely different, especially when you add decades in between them. So I'm kind of okay with most of the differences. Some bother me more than others, but, you know, I'm a geek and I expect that some things will bother me more than others, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah. I'm kind of expecting the Flash and Cyborg to go to college together. I think that'd be funny, but
well, I think Barry has his degree, right? Didn't they? He's got a criminal science degree or something.
I thought he said he was
just working on it,
making some money to go and get a justice degree.
What seemed like at the end he got the job, right?
Yeah,
which job that he gets
was
that he has
confusing.
in the comics at the very end.
I think Bruce can make just about anything happen that he wants to.
Yeah, I think he told his dad that he was still working on the degree. And he was like saving up to like pay for stuff, but then at the end, it seemed like he got a very basic job. Like, I don't think
he's working for the police.
I don't think it was like, you know, he's an intern or something, maybe, you know.
Right.
Yeah,
well, I mean, you know, in both the comics and the TV show, he's basically CSI.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm gathering he's the intern at CSI now, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, but that'd possibly serve him in good stead for his own movie when they try to explore more what happened with his dad, because that way he can use his the people he meets at his new job as resources and stuff.
I am kind of bummed that we lost a scene with Iris.
Yeah.
You know, there was a scene where he saves Iris, and if he's gonna be Barry, he needs Iris. So that kind of bothered me that they cut that out. But oh well.
That can be in his own movie.
Exactly. I mean, presumably it will be. Although, will it be the same actress? Because they don't have to now.
I thought these versions of the characters were fine. You know, long-time comic reader, so I'm used to different versions. I just honestly don't have much confidence that we'll see these versions of the characters again. Because either they're going to make a sequel and they're just going to throw the continuity of the previous movies out again, or they're just going to totally reboot the whole thing.
Do you think they'd change the actors, though?
Yes.
Well, I don't think they're going to get rid of Gal Gadot.
Yeah, I think Henry Cavill's under
so.
contract for one more movie. Obviously, they're going to make a Wonder Woman 2. But I don't know if we'll ever see Ben Affleck again.
Yeah, maybe not him. But they're already working on the Flash, Shazam, and Cyborg movies.
And Suicide Squad.
Zach Levi. Oh, that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, but now there won't be The Rock or Black Adam in it. He's going to get his own movie.
Well, he's going to be in Suicide Squad too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind then. Oh, well, either way, that's fine. You don't Black Adam.
So Zachary Levi, he's playing Billy Batson?
I'm
playing
assuming
Captain Marvel.
I'm assuming he's playing Captain Marvel and the kids play.
Yeah,
he's way too old to be there.
They've cast a kid also, but I have no idea.
Yeah, DC didn't learn from Marvel.
But he's
Like you get your actors and you sign them for a bunch of movies. You get like the fairly well named people. You sign them for a bunch of movies, and then you get like these people that are unnamed and like that are hardly into the business, but like will fill the role, and then you sign them cheaply and force them to work as slave labor.
Zachary Levi makes no sense. Captain Marvel's like a big buff guy.
Yeah,
Right. He's
actually gotten pretty
there.
big lately.
He's working out with Ben.
Well, it's just HG. They all get HGH, I think. In Hollywood, you can get any drug you want to get. So,
right.
Okay.
But yeah, not having Black Adam, what's the point? Like,
yeah. Well, you can have Mr. Mind. We can have a worm.
Captain.
I guess because they
Savannah.
Savannah wanted to do DC, so they brought The Rock in, and they gave him his choice if he wanted to be Shazam or Black Adam. He's like, yeah, Black Adam is cool. I want to do Black Adam, but it's like, well,
I think he would have been a better Shazam.
Yeah, he'd be a good Captain Marvel.
He'd be great as either. I think he would have been a great
like
Captain Marvel.
yeah, he's perfect.
It's crazy to me that like obviously now The Rock is your vehicle. He's your star. So like he's the villain. He's like, well, I wouldn't be the villain, but I gotta have my own movie then. Like, well, now you're just ruining the whole thing. Like, you've made it pointless.
I think we've seen a movie with an awful villain, and I'd love to see a movie with a good villain for once. It would be nice.
No, but I mean, like, splitting it off as, like, I'm not even going to be in the Captain Marvel movie. I'm going to be in the Black Adam movie. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's a problem.
Are people even?
The thing is, I honestly don't think The Rock will be a good villain. I don't think he'll be able to pull it off because.
Have you watched wrestling? He was the best heel in wrestling for.
He was, but Black Adam is a lot different than The Rock.
Right.
I was gonna say we've never seen him actually play a legit villain, but he was kind of in the character The Rock was. But but it was like it's a cartoon. It's like a Saturday morning cartoon.
The Rock was the good guy.
He went back and forth several times.
I don't know.
I never.
He was funny. He's like
kind of like a villain
I
Fast and Furious.
Mike wrestlers.
No, I was saying he was kind of like a villain in one of those Fast and Furious movies. But then
he was more like an
hero.
antagonist than a villain, wasn't he? I haven't seen him.
Yeah, he was like the government agent chasing them, who was like a super good guy, but he was their bad guy.
Yeah, I have a lot of faith in him to pull it off. But
well, I do want to know what you guys think about the whole like Whedon versus Snyder thing. Like personally, I think he saved this movie. Just like looking at what he did versus some of the other trailers, and I've seen lots of people being like, well, he ruined it, and they the studio making it too short ruined it, and all this stuff. But it's like looking at the original trailers, that final fight scene was basically supposed to be in the dark. And instead, he like made it up against like a bright, red kind of like apocalypse looking sky where you could actually see what was going on. I'm like, that alone kind of I think would have made the movie unwatchable. But
I'm very interested to see what Zack Snyder had in mind, whether they have, because apparently they did make his cut of the movie and they showed it to people, and then they took it back into the editing room and they cut out like an hour, so a third of the movie.
Well, not just cut, they rewrote. They rewrote whole
and so they were starting to do some reshoots and stuff, and he had to dip out of the project when Whedon was brought in. Because his daughter died. Because his daughter, which is horrible.
Awful.
But it's one of those things where I've heard that as much as every single scene with Superman is a reshoot.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah, I think the 2-hour runtime is horrible for this movie. I'm not a fan of what Whedon did, but I think under the circumstances of making a coherent 2-hour movie from what was available to him, I think he did a fine job under the circumstances. I think personally, I probably would have liked the 3-hour Snyder version more. Like
you could see what both of their visions were. I mean, there's no way they'll ever do it. They will never do it.
Well, part of the issue is that the other version is not finished.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. So, like, when they screen stuff, a lot of the effects aren't done when they don't, and it would cost too much money.
And it would cost way too much to do it just for a what if.
Yeah. So, I mean, they could show you the kind of version they screen to people with, like, incomplete effects, which sometimes is fun to watch.
Right. Maybe in 10 years when effects get really cheaper, or 20 years, we'll get the, like, the original director cut kind of thing.
we eventually got, I think it took like 30 years to get the original Dawn, or as close as you could get to the original Dawn or Superman 2.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But I think that's what we're looking at. I don't think it's a year or two. I think it's 10, 20 years away before they would do that. That would be my... I mean, maybe something will leak online somewhere, but...
if they feel there's a way they can profit off of it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's like, I like dark. I like dark movies. I like if it's well done dark. My problem with most of what we've seen so far from Snyder is that it's dark and not smart, if that makes sense. It's just been a lot of like mindless fight scenes to me. I know some of you will disagree with me, but I felt like, there just wasn't enough character motivation. There wasn't enough that drew me in. Like, if it's dark and I care about these characters, I love it. Game of Thrones doesn't have a lot of humor, but it can be pretty dark and in a great way. And sometimes not, but we'll talk about that in other podcasts.
Disagree about that as well.
Right. But I like dark, but I just haven't liked a lot of what we've seen here. I mean, I liked Watchmen a lot, like more than, almost, most people do, but I just felt it hasn't worked in this universe, and maybe it would have, because we won't know, because we haven't seen it. I mean, but Whedon added the lightness that contrasts that dark really well, and he's done it in kind of all of, both universes he's been in. And I think most of the things I liked about this movie came from him. I do wish we had a lot more of that character stuff, which probably came from Snyder. A lot of the background of these characters would have really helped this movie. Another 20 minutes even would have made this movie so much better, because we'd care about Cyborg and Aquaman and Flash more than we do.
Yeah, I still don't know how Snyder got to make Man of Steel after Sucker Punch, but I don't know.
It's like he doesn't care about the characters, or he doesn't respect the source material. Like, he doesn't understand Batman. He hates Superman.
Well, I think he might be able to do a good Batman. I think he definitely was the wrong choice for Superman.
Mm.
There's probably some, like I said, also I like Watchmen. I think that dark material, I think he got that.
So good, yeah, really good. I don't think Watchmen gets nearly enough credit. What I was going to say, we haven't talked yet about the mid-credits and post-credit scenes.
Okay, that's a good place to...
As a DC geek, restaging Flash versus Superman speed contest was awesome. Loved it. Lots of fun. What'd you think of it?
But Superman was flying.
Yeah, he's flying.
No, that's okay. There were like several classic stories of these over the years, and in some of them he flew in and some he ran, but I'm okay with it.
The heart
is it was a nice tribute. It was a nice tribute. I liked it. And then, of course, the post-credit scene where we get a thankfully very much toned down Lex Luthor meeting Deathstroke.
Deathstroke looks great, but I was hoping that someone else would be there too to give us a bit more of a tease.
Yeah, but Joe Manganiello playing him was pretty awesome for the 20 seconds we saw it. I hope we're building up to an Injustice League, although that leads to, is the next movie going to be Injustice League, or is it going to be Darkseid, or have they? My guess is they haven't decided yet. They're kind of.
Is it Injustice League the alternate universe?
That's the Crime
Justice League. Well, the Crime Syndicate is one of them, but I thought the Injustice League was also the another version of the Crime Syndicate, like one of the newer versions.
Originally in the comics, the Injustice League was basically the Legion of Doom. When they didn't have Legion of Doom, they decided, let's call them the Injustice League. So it was, various Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash villains together, and all of them in one group to fight.
Yeah, I think the next movie, if there is one, will be Legion of Doom or Injustice League, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. I don't think we're getting Darkseid anytime soon, if ever.
Sucks.
Yeah.
I want Darkseid, even though I don't know if it'll make. I don't know if it'll make a great movie, but
I would love an HBO
why do you think they're not doing that after doing this movie?
Because this movie's going to lose $100 million.
Well, but I mean, even outside of that, the setup scene for this was not a Darkseid setup. It was Luthor.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? Like, even before whatever this was going to do financially, they didn't set up for the sequel to be Darkseid. Do you think they were, like, trying to think long and, like, ooh, let's push that villain out like Thanos?
What is the point? What's the point of having Steppenwolf as the villain? If that was the end of this story with Apocalypse, why wouldn't you have Darkseid as that in that same role?
Because this movie was in production before they changed their mind 3 times.
That's my point. Right, that's my point. I mean, I think the plan all along was Darkseid, but now they may have. Is this going to work?
Yeah. I think it's more interesting to do an Injustice League than another alien invasion movie. I think that's Marvel's done that 2 or 3 times. Let's just do something different.
I think different. It would be fun, and I think that they really needed an ideas guy like to map this out in the beginning.
Yeah, and hopefully Jeff Johns can do something
as bad
with
as
that,
Marvel, but like, come on, like they could have done something if they were wanted to do this, or just jumped right into a Justice League movie, straight away.
Right. I would have loved to have
Who was it? Was it George? It was Miller, right? That was going to make one.
Yeah,
like forever ago with like Armie Hammer as Batman and all that.
Oh.
No,
the tween Justice League.
Yeah, I don't think Armie Hammer was in it, but I think
they might have been talking about it, but I don't think it ever was really planned.
No, well, that was the one that like these people were all cast and they were going to make it, and then it got into pre-production and then very quickly got stalled over and over again and then died.
I don't even remember that. I didn't even hear about that one.
Yeah,
well, this was like 8 or 9 years ago.
Huh. Yeah, I read that on someone like.
And I think Lone Ranger came out and killed that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
I still quite like Lone Ranger. I think it's a fun movie if you want a dumb movie.
Which I don't.
I liked Lone Ranger. I saw it like a couple years after it came out when everybody trashed it, so I kind of knew going in, what it was.
Right.
But I enjoyed it.
I think it could really work as an idea, though, to make the next Justice League movie be the Injustice League, so we get, some of these other characters and good villains, and everyone gets a good scene, and then bring Darkseid in like 10 years.
So how about this? I think who would be the ideal Injustice League for like this movie team?
Luthor.
We got Lex Luthor for Superman. You need a Wonder Woman.
Black
Manta. I would say
Cheetah is lame.
Cheetah seems like
still would work well visually though. So either that or Giganta. You can have Giganta.
I think Cheetah's better.
Right, and probably. I mean, for
Black
Batman, you'd almost have to use Joker. I mean, maybe Catwoman would work better, but Catwoman.
No, well, Batman.
But Joker doesn't work well with others. Is the thing.
You already have.
Yeah, you've got like Ra's al Ghul or.
Sure. That's what could work because him and like Luthor would totally clash, especially this Luthor who is basically Joker.
You bring Zoom for Flash?
Yeah, it has to be Zoom.
No, I'd bring Captain Cold.
Yeah, maybe.
Sinestro.
It has to be
Zoom's cooler.
No, but Cheetah's all. I think Cheetah can.
Well, it depends on where we are in the Green Lantern story. Right. Sinestro could be a Lantern still.
Right.
Yeah, I think they would be better off to just do Green Lantern as like the veteran, and Sinestro is already someone he's fought and out there, and just skip all that backstory.
Or even better, go right in with Jon Stewart up against the veteran Sinestro, so he has he doesn't have the advantage. You'd probably have to go. You'd have to go with Black Manta for Aquaman.
Yeah.
Cyborg doesn't have one unless you take like one of the Titans villains.
Well, so Terminator, he's like going to be the Batman villain, right?
No,
he's like the villain Batman.
Maybe he'll go against like Cyborg, and we'll have a Batman villain because we need a better.
He's been a villain for several people,
right? Because the thing with Terminator is that he was never really a Batman villain. They did in like some of those, like in some of like the Justice League stuff. They used him against him, but generally, he was more against either Titans originally, and then later Justice League in general. And Arrow and stuff like that. So, I mean, you could use him as like kind of the fill-in for like, say, Cyborg, who doesn't really have one, unless you use like Simon or one of the Fearsome Five or something. You could have him against Cyborg, and then you could still bring in one of the Batman villains, who there's many, Scarecrow or whoever.
Not a lot of the Batman villains are like
cinematic
League material,
right? I was thinking that too, like.
Like the Penguin shows up and he's like, "I'm rich and I shoot things out of my umbrella. What are we doing? Blowing up the world? Well, shit."
Yeah. Well, but that's the whole problem with Batman, period, in this, is that once you get cosmic, him and his entire world don't really fit. But the question, of course, is if we're not doing it in Justice League, then what was the entire point of the whole Joe Manganiello as Deathstroke? So we've got to be bringing him back at some point. Unless it's, well, some people said they think they're setting him up to be the villain of the next Batman movie, if there is one.
He's supposed to have his own movie at this point. I wouldn't put, I mean, they have no idea what they're doing, so personally, I wouldn't get too caught up in things. I think part of the problem is...
But would you cast a major hero a major actor for a
major actor?
cameo post-credits if you weren't going to use him for something later?
Yeah. I mean, they filmed like 4 or 5 scenes in Batman vs. Superman that had zero payoff in this movie.
True.
Yeah.
But you got to think they were at least intending to go somewhere and then change their mind. So my guess is, where are they intending to go with this character?
They intended for him to be the villain in the Ben Affleck Batman movie, but that's not going to happen. So
now what do we do now? What's Plan B?
Well, I really appreciate everyone being on.
Yeah, well, thanks for hosting this, man. It's great. Find VOK on WordPress, VOK Podcasts, WordPress.com. On the YouTubes, usually things are a little out of date there, so WordPress is a little more update. iTunes, Twitter, the Facebook, and the Podcast Device and Fire forums. That's where we usually are.
Good spiel.
Figure you had it down.
Are we still on the dating apps or whatever?
We do all of it. If there's a thing, we do it. We swipe up, we swipe down, we swipe into the phone. We are on the new one. The new one that all the kids are doing, we're doing it. We're on it. It's great.
What is the new one?
We don't know, but we're there.
Don't ruin the magic. 10 years from now, when someone listens to this, they'll go look for us on like glog.
MySpace.
Yeah, MySpace will be back by that point.
Yes, I'm on MySpace now.
Well, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys, for talking.
Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I appreciate you doing it on American time.
It's all right. It only started at 10 a.m. It was very civilized. Very civilized. Okay. Cool.
All right. Goodbye. Good night to all.
All right. See you guys later.
Bye.
Thanks,
Have a good Thanksgiving.
You too.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye.
Bye.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Vassals.
By the way, I'm sending you a picture of my cat right now because she's adorable and everybody needs to see her. So,
adorable.
There you go.
She's always adorable.
She is. She's the cutest thing. She's such a cuddly girl. It's the best.
If you want pictures of my fish orgy, I think I have it on my Facebook. A video.
He needs a movie because I haven't seen him in enough previews lately.
See the Rampage preview?
Oh, yeah.
Because he was in two previews.
I saw it in this.
Yeah.
Who asked for that movie?
I don't know. I loved that game when I was a kid, but that was...
I'm pretty sure that was The Rock's passion project.
It's gotta be.
Gotta get Rampage made, bro.
It's gotta be.
Insane.
So weird.
I wish I had half the money they would just throw away on shit like that.
Yeah. That's gonna flop.
Yeah, I do love the angle how they're like, he's a zookeeper who is like made up, who's bonded with this gorilla, and they're bros. And then now the gorilla's becoming a giant gorilla, and he has to save his friend. What the hell?
How come you get along better with animals than with people?
Animals are way better. Stop wrecking buildings, gorilla. No.
Sounds like an Oscar to me. Sounds like an Oscar winner to me.
I am emoting.
Oh my god.
Pure nonsense.
Oh yeah.
The Jumanji looks good though. I think it looks funny.
I'm
I don't want to say it's good. It looks
Kevin
entertaining.
Hart and Jack Black because I think they'll be really, really funny in it.
Karen Gillan, Doctor Who.
Yes. Karen Gillan too. I don't know.
I put in the show notes. If we do continue with this movie verse, any other characters you would like to see brought into the Justice League superheroes?
Everyone.
No,
I'm sorry.
I hope they don't.
I want to see them all, but I love that she said though with seats for more or whatever it was she said. That was awesome. Like Batman's like, I got my team, and she's like, no, we're gonna bring more in here.
Why are they in Wayne Manor exactly? But I think Jon Stewart and Hawk Girl make a lot of sense.
Wayne Manor. I can see it now. A round table with more room, and like maybe you fix up the rest of the house too, right?
Well, I think he's going to.
Why is he just
Hawk Girl without Hawkman?
Yeah.
You know.
All the comics.
Like the Justice League cards. Because you have to have another. We have to have at least one more woman on the team before we add like 7 more men. I mean, come on.
Zatanna.
I mean, yeah, Zatanna would be awesome. But then you get into magic and
supposedly
Supergirl.
Justice League Dark is still a thing. Supposedly.
Oh,
well,
there's always Power Woman.
They're elbows deep in magic already with Wonder Woman and the gods.
Yeah, they got Sword, Enchantress too, but.
See, I would like to see Supergirl brought in as like introduced as like one like brainwashed apocalypse villain, you know?
Hey, because I mean, otherwise she's just Superman. I mean, the problem with bringing in Supergirl is that you now have yet another
Kryptonian.
Where you have yet another like superhero who should. I mean, realistically, unless you're bringing in Darkseid, Superman should be able to take out anyone the Justice League faces in like 5 minutes.
Right, but Martian Manhunter is just Superman that's afraid of fire and can melt your mind.
Exactly. It's like, but the more you bring in more of those characters, the harder it gets. You know, at least Martian Manhunter is different because he's from another world. He's got slightly different powers because he can change shape and go invisible and stuff. But, you know, when you've got Supergirl, she's basically just Superman in a skirt. So what does that add to the team?
Family.
Yeah. Makes Batman feel less weird about being in love with Superman,
I mean,
probably.
I mean, I love her show. I love her show personally, but in this movie, I don't think she'd help it.
Yeah, to me, again, I just think it makes the most sense to add Jon Stewart and Kendra Sanders. It gives you a woman and an African American, which I think is important.
Right, and we Green Lantern.
Yeah,
Green Lantern is one of the great DC heroes.
I was just gonna say definitely need a lantern.
Yeah,
some lantern at least, but ideally Stewart. I mean, I still would love to see Firestorm, but we've gotten him on the TV show, so probably we won't. But he could have played that role that like Barry's playing, the wisecracking kid, you know.
Right.
I don't know. I never was really fully sold on Firestorm.
Oh, I love Firestorm. He's cool.
Well, in traditional Justice League stories, I mean, we've never really had that, you know, the role that Barry and Cyborg are playing here, the new hero who doesn't know what he's doing. They've already been established in their own books. You know, they had a kid sidekick originally called Snapper Carr, but he never had any powers, so there was no real reason why.
Well, like Kyle was that for a while.
Right.
Well, Wally played that
way later.
Too.
Right. Way later, both of them. But in the original, you know, Firestorm was the first character to really play that part. And to some extent, you could say maybe Hot Girl and maybe Zatanna came in because she didn't have a lot of superheroing experience. But, you know, and maybe Red Tornado because he was an android.
Oh, but, Red Tornado.
You know, he was the
like
first
Black
kid.
Vulcan or somebody.
Well,
that was just from Super Friends, I think.
He doesn't exist in the DC universe.
They made him into the comics now.
The Indian that gets big, he would be good.
Well, you would have to completely redo that one.
Native American that gets big.
Well, like it was it Justice League or was it? No, I think it was Justice League. I think Justice League Unlimited that did kind of a version of that where they had these like new superheroes that showed up, but you had like it was, you know, the Wonder Twins. They weren't called the Wonder Twins, and you had basically Apache Chief, but kind of modernized versions of them, which I thought were pretty cool. But they ended up all being like clones or something.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there was like an army of evil clones featuring kind of like these cast-off heroes. It's like Black Vulcan and the Wonder Twins, and
did they have Samurai? Did they have Samurai from the Super?
I'm sure there was another one. They had Apache Chief, but they called him something else, and like he looked a lot cooler. And then they had there was a fifth one. I forget what it was.
You know, it's kind of sad that the Super Friends cartoon was more ethnically diverse than the Justice League ever was. You know, it's really sad because, I mean, let's face it. I mean, when Jon Stewart first appeared, they actually called him Black Lantern because every black character had to have black in the name. Like,
did they?
Strange. Yes, they did. I had a handbook like somewhere where they had the list of all of them, and they actually called him Black Lantern Jon Stewart. I was like, seriously?
Well, speaking of like diversities and black heroes and stuff, like you have Black Panther, who is obviously like a classic character, but that movie just looks great.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
I hope so. I'm emotionally detached from it for some reason, but I hope it's good.
I mean,
well, the director is supposed to be really good. The guy that directed Creed, so
yeah, I like Michael B. Jordan.
The actors
yeah,
good,
I mean the actors are all great. I hope I love it.
I mean, it's a problem you've got in that. Let's face it, in the '60s, these stories were written for white boys, by white men for white boys, and
it was like peak blaxploitation, right? Like with all those various films. So
that was in the '70s, but in the '60s, like for instance, I don't know if you know this. I'm a big Legion of Superheroes fan, where Superboy went into the future and joined a team of like teen kids saving the universe, and back then we had characters from literally like planets all over the universe, and they were all like white. It was probably the most
green one, I think.
Yeah, Brainiac 13 was green.
Okay, let's get there. We got Brainiac 5 was green, so that was okay. And there were actually, of all the teams in comics, there were more girls in that team than like any other. There were like 6 or 7, which you never saw. Like you always had your token Wonder Woman or Invisible Girl or whoever. But and Yellow Jacket. But I mean, I'm sorry, Wasp. But what's interesting is back there was this weird era in the late 60s where they let this, strangely enough, a 16-year-old kid write the book because he wrote in saying, I could do better than you. And they said, prove it. And he wrote in and he did. So they gave him the book. And he added a few new heroes. And one of them was Karate Kid, who was supposed to be Asian, but they made him white. And the other one was this girl, Shadow Lass. And he wanted her to be black, but they wouldn't allow that. But it was okay that because she was an alien, she was blue. That's the state of comics in the 60s, that we can't have a black character because that'll offend people. But if she's blue, it's okay.
Yeah, it's a journey. I mean,
and then in the 70s, you got your blaxploitation. And in the case of Jon Stewart, it wasn't so much exploitation as we're trying to say, look how relevant we are. We're going to have, basically, Hal went off with Ollie, the Green Arrow, to do to find his liberal side, to find America's like liberal side. And while he was off on that, like dealing with drugs and like real issues, we needed a new hero, so we threw a black guy in just to say, look how cool we are. But
originally Jon Stewart showed up as like the replacement Lantern.
Oh, that's exactly what it was.
Like as the backup, and then they brought him in to actually they were both Lantern for a minute.
A few minutes, not long. It was actually under the Neil Adams era when they were Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams. They did these relevant stories where Green Lantern, Green Arrow went off to discover America, and he filled in as the new guy, as the replacement. But that didn't last very long, and then they kind of got rid of him, and they used him in like one Justice League story.
Who was that Green Lantern that they added a few years ago that had a gun?
It's Simon Baz, right? Is that his name? Simon.
Yeah, it's like is he still going or whatever? I kind of dropped.
Yeah, he's still going.
I read Green Lantern up until John's ended his run, and that
Batman made him get rid of the gun. If that makes you feel better.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, because like what the hell?
Basically said you don't need a gun. You've got the most powerful weapon.
You've got a hand cannon. Yeah. Come on.
So, but they have Jessica Cruz and Simon are the 2-1-4 lanterns currently.
Oh, it's not. There's not any of the other 4 anymore.
No, they're all in the Green Lantern Corps. Hal and Guy and John.
Right. Well, that was the thing. John was not the original replacement. Guy was.
Yeah.
written way back when. And then that's when they decided, wait, we want to be cool. So they gave him.
And they're like, this guy's crazy.
He wasn't back then. He was he was in the original appearances. He was very just generic white bread. They later, when they brought him back in the new Justice League series,
he had like brain damage. Remember that one time?
Yep,
when
that was
he had a Yellow Lantern ring. He took like Sinestro's ring, and he used to like pick fights with Green Lanterns to recharge it. That was good times. He's like, I can be part of the Justice League, but I have to attack heroes every now and then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Guy was crazy.
So this is all going in the after show, but
I would say that's all after.
Well, anybody read Doomsday Clock today? Came out?
Oh, did it come out? I kind of gave up on the comics 3 reboots ago because once the stories didn't happen, I care less. But I might check that out just because I like these characters. So we'll see.
Okay.
Was it good? Was it good?
I didn't care for it, but I'm gonna read it.
Okay, maybe I won't.
I would suggest you read it yourself, but it's an interesting mess.
So is this like basically the sequel to whatever that issue was?
Rebirth number 1.
Rebirth, with Watchmen back in the universe kind of thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's see where it goes, but it's got me curious about a few things. I just wondered if anyone else had read it today.
Not yet.
I'll definitely check it out.
I'll probably wait until the whole series is done and see how people liked it and then decide if I care enough to. Because I haven't read a DC comic in a few years now. When the Legion comes back, I will, but otherwise, we'll see.
I think they're coming back, I think.
So is Doomsday Clock?
They keep saying it. They're coming back on Supergirl.
Who is?
The Legion.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, they've already had
the
Smallville this week, and there's actually an episode coming up in 2 or 3 weeks called Legion of Superheroes. So
I'm looking forward to the crossover. It looks pretty good.
Yeah,
I mean, we don't know much about it, but
Earth X. Freedom Fighters. Ray, our first. Well, actually, not anymore. Our first gay superhero, but first gay superhero to have his own show. Although it's going to be a cartoon.
I don't know
if you want, I can share. My cat has been on the bed with me the whole time we've been on this call. The whole time. She's asleep now.
My cats are probably throwing up on something.
Oh, that's not good.
Cats steal your breath while you sleep.
Yeah, my cat punches me in the face while I sleep.
My fish stay in their tank, so they're fine.
I just went on the record that I like this movie more than anyone else.
By 0.1. By 0.01.
So a year from now, when we all are like, no, this movie was great, you can.
That's right.
You can claim that.
I occasionally go back and listen to the Age of Ultron VOK and laugh at the people that gave it 6 out of 5. But that's just
who did that?
I won't name names, but they know who they are.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I
probably liked it better than it was. I don't remember if I could give it that high. If I was on it, I don't even remember if I was on that.
I remember a couple people who were. I love them, so I won't mention their names. But they
to the archives.
They are. Disney.
Let's go listen.
They are Disney zombies. So.
A lot of countries have Thanksgiving in some form.
We don't have Thanksgiving.
What would the equivalent Australian holiday be for your fall? I don't even know when your fall. Don't you have a harvest?
Yeah, is there like an October, November holiday?
Well, they don't have their October, November is not our. When is your harvest? I guess is that Vegemite or whatever you eat?
It's your spring.
Yeah.
And Easter, probably.
Oh, okay.
But
that makes sense. All right, we'll go check out the Age of Ultron VOK and the Man of Steel.
What number is it?
We'll put a link in the comments section.
I don't know what.
Isn't it a link in the description bar if it's on YouTube? And show notes if it's anywhere else?
If it's, who's to say?
I feel like Man of Steel was one of the first VOKs I actually listened to.
It was early. It was like in the teens or...
No, it was even earlier. Shane, it was on that for sure. I think it was
that was my
5
first one
or something. Yeah, Man of Steel was 6.
Okay. My first be okay.
You always remember your first. Mine have all been with Sarah, so.
So Ultron was 203. Oops.
Was I on that one? I don't even remember now.
I clicked on it, but it just...
Bad when you don't remember what you've been on.
I was not on there.
This might be number 100 for me. I don't even remember now.
Oh, wow.
Really?
I was counting them up. I was counting them up the other day.
Wow, good for you.
Congratulations.
Yeah, well, I keep a folder with all of them like backed up. Like, I don't know, in case anything ever happens to me, it's like my kid could like listen to that at least. You know, have something. I don't know.
It'd be like Jor-El talking to a kid from beyond the grave.
Oh,
That's right. Listen
That's
to
gorgeous.
me, son.
Wait, that's after show material right there.
You know that
Tyrion's not as
Krypton
bad
sequence
as
in the
they say.
beginning of Man of Steel
Oh, no.
is a legit good little mini movie
It's-
directed by Zack Snyder.
Which one?
Yeah, that's actually
Wait, which
the
one?
Krypton stuff I actually enjoyed in Man of Steel.
Krypton in the beginning of Man of Steel.
It would have been all cut out of this movie. They would not have... It'd have been like, that's not important.
Yeah.
And Zod would have just shown up with no backstory. And
Right. Wow.
He would have been CG.
what number did I say? I can't find it. I don't know who was on Age of Ultron.
You said 203, right?
203, is that what I said?
Wait, you're saying Nadia, so just look through Nadia's stuff.
That's what I
Right.
thought I was doing.
You can just do that.
Or just look through your own stuff if you were on it.
I was not on it.
Okay.
Just call her out. Do it.
Nadia. Nadia.
Should be pre-show, during the show, and post-show.
Nadia. Big name.
I love Nadia. She's probably my
Yep.
favorite person on VOK.
Lovely. And she ships everything like I do, so it's fantastic.
I hope I didn't...
Uh,
I can't find it. I hope I didn't defame her.
well, in that case, you'll hear about it when she listens to this.
She won't hopefully get to 3 hours and 12 minutes or whatever.
Or just cut this part out of it.
Well, are we technically...
Well, if you Google it, comes right up.
Oh,
There you
doesn't?
Google.
I forgot about that.
Google? What's that?
Do you mean Gogglebox? What? Nadia's done so
Let's see.
many.
Amin, Barrick, Tedard, White Raven.
Oh, she's not on there. It was just Vic. I feel like she was on there. Maybe I'm misremembering.
Maybe she wasn't linked because
We did.
I know.
We did Civil War.
Shane, you are on
Was
there.
she on
so I'm gonna
Winter
go back and
Soldier?
listen to what you gave it.
She was on Civil
Yeah,
War.
we're gonna call him out. Call him out.
I apologize, Nadia. I'm cutting that all out that I defamed her. It was just Vikram, I guess. I remember him giving it 6 out of 5. 6 out of 5 Infinity Stones he gave it.
I remember being like, it hasn't aged well. I think I was higher on it than I probably would be today,
It's a
but I don't
horrible
remember
movie.
how.
I like it came out. Now
Yeah,
it's
but
like-
this is a horrible movie.
This is not
Justice
a horrible
League.
movie. This is a passable movie.
BVS is a horrible movie.
BVS
Your
is a good
objectivity.
Yeah, I
Good
like
question.
this. I like this a hell of a lot more than
Oh,
BVS.
This is so
I
much
thought
more
BVS was
vanilla
awful.
than BVS.
You know what?
I
I'm gonna go watch
wanted-
that movie again just to
I-
see.
I really
Hi, Amber.
wanted to like, hey,
Oh,
hey, Amber. This is our first time officially chatting online, Amber, since I saw you in person. We'll take your husband off on a roller coaster trip.
no, I met you in Boston. What?
Yeah, no, I said it's the first time online we've talked.
What did we all decide? Did we like it?
Yeah, mostly.
better than Age of
Okay.
Ultron.
What was the average?
Oh, hello.
I would say the average was like 3.25.
Well, I'm just here to say
Average was
I hated Man of Steel and I
Agreed.
liked Justice League.
I agree.
And Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
So what about
Thanksgiving.
BVS?
What? What?
How do you feel
Hello?
about BVS?
Batman versus
Isn't
Superman.
that Shane?
It is.
Yeah.
He's really here.
Oh, hi, buddy.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Okay, so Happy Thanksgiving. Batman versus Superman. Thumbs down.
That's all you had to say.
Batman versus Superman. 5.
5 out of 5.
A 5.
Really?
Man of Steel.
1.
None. Justice League. 8.
Oh,
Ezra Miller.
10.
Boyfriend.
That's funny.
Just cut that and put it at the beginning.
Yeah, that'll
There you go.
Yeah.
Throw her in.
3.1-ish. I said through it, I say 3.5. 3.1.
Because David said 3.5, Tom said 3.7.
No, I think I ended up. I said between 3.5 and 4.
Did we have a long conversation?
I'm sorry?
Did that happen?
Yeah, I think I gave it a 3.75, didn't I?
Yeah, 3.67.
Is this still or is this hot? Good lord. Thomas,
This is
Yes, ma'am.
is this your show?
Sure.
It was.
Bringing it in.
He's lost it.
Oh, this is way.
We're very briefly after show. We only officially ended like a few minutes
Dude,
ago.
all those movies fucking suck ass.
Mr. Rox's opinion. that would be my husband. He's
Hi.
serious as cancer. Okay. Love you all. Okay, bye.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye,
We'll go
bye,
roll
Mr.
some
Amber.
Yeah. Straight.
That guy's going.
He asked his wife for directions, so.
Have we officially said goodbye?